Good evening. All right. It is with great pleasure that I go to item 2A for our Employee of the Month with Art Velasquez. Where is he? I think he's in the back. Come on up. There's Art. Absolutely. Art is our Employee of the Month, and this is the time I get to embarrass him. Everyone knows Art, and before I get into the formal part, you're up here in City Hall, and so you're one of the folks I get to see day in and day out when I come here. And you always have a smile on your face, and you're always working as hard as you can. There's actually a really cool story in here how you saved the City Hall from bees, so I'm going to get into that. But you work tirelessly, and you always have a great attitude, and I can't thank you enough for being the face of the city of Turlock. So going into it, Art has been with the city since August 2011. He had retired from West Valley Construction in the Bay Area in 2008. One day, Art was in City Hall paying his utility bill when he saw they were hiring for a part-time maintenance position. He figured he would give it a shot. He thought he'd be working outside, but they had him shadow another buildings worker, and he started at City Hall. Art was part-time at City Hall from August 2011 until he went for a full-time position and was awarded it June 1st, 2015. Art just hit his 3-year mark full-time with the city of Turlock. Art is a very kind and helpful man. He is always positive and willing to help and do anything that is asked of him. Art demonstrated his willingness to help out and to get the job done when a swarm of bees gathered outside City Hall. Many bees found their way into the building, and Art came for help immediately. He captured the bees and released them outside in a very calm manner. He never questioned the duty. He just helped his fellow city employees and residents of Turlock. After he was done and went about his day with the rest of his duties, he regularly checked on the staff to make sure everything was still okay. This is just one example of how Art's kind, calm, cool demeanor serves the city. Art always works hard to make sure everyone is taken care of. His personal hobbies: Art is originally from San Jose. He has lived in Turlock since December 2000. Art is married and has 5 children, ranging from age 20 to 30 years old, 1 set of twins. He has 11 grandchildren so far. That's emphasized here. Art is a San Francisco Giants and 49ers fan. Let it go. All right, yeah. He enjoys going to football and baseball games, going to the movies, and playing catch with the grandchildren. Art enjoys family barbecues and swimming, and they enjoy Disneyland trips and going to church on the weekends. Give it up for Art. Thank you very much. Absolutely. There you go. And the microphone's yours. I know.
I'm not much of a talker, so I'll make it short. Thank you for this recognition, and I'll keep working hard. And thank you again.
Absolutely. That's what you're paying. All right. If I could ask representatives from the St. Matthew Assyrian Chaldean Catholic Church to come on up. Give them a round of applause for all their hard work. Good job. Come on up. All right. It got swapped. Yeah, we'll get there. All right. So that's Ambassador Pierre always telling me of my mistakes, so that's good. All right. In honor of St. Matthew Assyrian Chaldean Catholic Church 10th year anniversary. Whereas on May 10th, 2008, St. Matthew Assyrian Chaldean Catholic Church was consecrated by His Excellency Bishop Yamu, first eparch of the Chaldean Catholic Diocese of St. Peter the Apostle. Whereas His Excellency Bishop Bawe Soro chose the name St. Matthew for our congregation and parish in late 2007. And whereas on May 11th, 2008, both bishops, various clergies, members of the parish, and friends from other parishes celebrated the first Holy Mass at St. Matthew Catholic Church. And whereas in 2008, Bishop Yamu appointed Father Michael Barada as the church first pastor. And whereas in 2012, Bishop Yamu reassigned Father Barado to St. Mary's Assyrian Chaldean Catholic Church in Campbell, California, and appointed Father Mansour as the church new pastor and Father Georges as the assistant pastor. Whereas in 2016, His Excellency Bishop Yamu retired from his position, and in August 2017, His Excellency Bishop Shaletta, was appointed by our Holy Father, Pope Francis, to be the Bishop of Chaldean Catholic Diocese. And whereas April 2017, Father Joseph Kachapilli, there we go, Kachapilli was appointed as the parish priest. And whereas St. Matthew Assyrian Chaldean Catholic Church maintains its tradition celebrating all liturgical services throughout the year, by which parishioners continue receiving the blessings of being universally one in Christ, one holy Catholic and apostolic church. Now therefore I, Gary Sorseth, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Turlock, and on behalf of the entire city council and all our citizens, do hereby congratulate St. Matthew Syrian Chaldean Catholic Church on their 10-year anniversary. Congratulations. Microphone is yours.
I am so amazed to see all these great people. Mayor of Turlock, of course, he's absent there, but I know him because he came to our church, and all the members of the board and city council, and the distinguished guests and members representing my parish in St. Matthew's series. So I was told that just to pray for you. So I'm not going to make a speech, so be comfortable. Since all of us are the children of God and Pastor prayed for us, I would just add a prayer. So, because we are all children of God and you are all working hard, you need the graces and blessings. So, I pray, Almighty, eternal, loving, compassionate God, graciously you have gathered us here today. Each of us is in your thought. Each of us is willed by you. Each of us you chose to spread your love all throughout the earth. We thank and praise you, Lord. Make us your channels of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow your love. Where there is hatred, let us give the grace and have the courage to forgive and to be understanding. Keep all nations in harmony, mutual respect and peace. Our city, Turlock, be protected from every evil. Give all religious and political leaders the courage to provide justice and equality to all who are entrusted under their care. Let our existence and activities be for the welfare of all and the glory of God, the Almighty, and welfare and security, love and protection for all, especially Lord bless America. Amen.
Honorable Gary Sorseth, Mayor of City of Turlock, board members of City Council, Reverend Father, distinguished guests, good evening. My name is Basil Abuna, President of our Parish Council Committee at St. Matthew Assyrian Chaldean Catholic Church in Ceres. We would like to express our gratitude and appreciation for this extraordinary opportunity to have us, some members and pastor of our parish, come here before you today on August 14, 2018, and receive the City of Turlock Proclamation Certificate of the 10th year anniversary for the consecration of our parish. We sincerely appreciate your attentive award. Just a brief summary of those of you who may not or may know little or none about our parish. Our parish was consecrated on May 10, 2008 by the first eparch of our Catholic eparchy of St. Peter the Apostle, who is now retired. Our present pastor is Father Joseph Kachapilli, who you just met. Our eparchy is based in San Diego County, where our present bishop, His Excellency Bishop Emmanuel Shalita, resides. To conclude, we once again thank you, Honorable Gary Sorseth, Mayor of City of Turlock, board members of City Council, and everyone present here today for honoring our congregation with this very special recognition. May God bless you all, and may God bless our great nation, United States of America. Thank you.
That's enough. All right. Thank you so much. Yes, Ambassador Piro can go now. Yes, you're good. All right. Next, I'd ask for Director of Operations Jesse Fenton to come up from the Golden Valley Health Centers for National Health Center Week for August 12th through 18th. Come on up. Where's Jesse? Jesse here tonight? Oh, come on up. Thank you so much for coming. I was going to say, long time no see. All right. Okay. We just had a ribbon cutting the other day, but now I'm going to read a proclamation in honor of National Health Center Week, and I'm being assisted by the help of a fly that keeps flying around here, so I apologize for that. Whereas for over 50 years, community health centers have provided high-quality, affordable, comprehensive primary and preventative health care in our nation's underserved communities, delivering value to and having a significant impact on America's healthcare system. And whereas as the country's largest primary care network, health centers are the healthcare home for 27 million Americans in over 10,000 communities across the nation. And whereas health centers are a critical element of the health system, serving both rural and urban populations, and often providing the only accessible and dependable source of primary care in their communities. And whereas every day, health centers develop new approaches to integrating a wide range of services beyond primary care, including oral health, vision, behavioral health, and pharmacy services to meet the needs and challenges of their communities. And whereas health centers are governed by patient majority boards, ensuring that the patients at each health center are engaged in their own health care decisions. And whereas National Health Center Week offers the opportunity to recognize America's nearly 1,400 health center organizations with over 10,400 service delivery sites, dedicated staff, board members, patients, and all those responsible for the continued success and growth. And now, therefore, I, Gary Sorseth, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Turlock, and on behalf of the entire city council and all our citizens, do hereby proclaim August 12th through 18th as National Health Center Week in the city of Turlock. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Hello, everyone. So just a quick few words about National Health Centers Week. Across the nation, most of our health centers are celebrating this week, and this week's theme is the American Heroes. So we're honoring not only our providers, but also our nurses that help deliver care for our patients and the communities that we serve. A little bit about Golden Valley. We started about 45 years ago in the city of Merced and have since spread our services up through the 3 counties of San Joaquin, Merced, and the Stanislaus County. We now have over 35 sites stretching along the 95, and we are now at 900 plus employees that help us to deliver our mission. We started out as a rural agricultural farm-based health center, and we make sure that we keep those roots alive within our organization. So we're part of the community. We're located in the Monte Vista Shopping Plaza next to the Assyrian Pharmacy. So our hours are now from 8 to 5 on Monday through Friday, and on the weekends, 8 to 9 Monday through Fridays, and on the weekends we're 8 to 5. So feel free to stop by. Alondra is the center manager there, so you come see her lovely face, and we'll be there happy to greet you with the medical service that you need. So thank you all for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you. And now I'd like to ask CrossFit Parabellum and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints representatives to come on up for a receiving a Million Acts of Kindness Initiative certificate. Come on up. Give them a round of applause for all their hard work that you'll hear about in a second. Come on up. Absolutely. Crowd around. You're good. Perfect. Absolutely. Now there's a crucial, come on guys, don't be shy. A crucial person missing from this group, and that's Surjit. Where's Surjit? Come on up. Give him a round of applause. So tonight we're actually going to dwell on some positive aspects of something that was very negative in our community. As many of you read some of the issues that Surjit experienced, and I'll have him say a few words, even though he never likes to come into the microphone. Surjit experienced a level of hatred that is not indicative of what this community thinks of our Sikh community or anyone in this community. And out of that hatred, out of that negativity, some really positive things came of it. And that's what we're here celebrating tonight. And so to the CrossFit Parabellum family, to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints families, I'm going to be explaining what they did and then allow a couple of them to say in their own words why they did what they did. So May it be known that this certificate is awarded to CrossFit Parabellum and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in recognition of your kind and generous behavior exhibited in the aid of Mr. Surjit Singh Mali through the cleanup of his vandalized vehicle and property. While Mr. Singh Mali experienced an act of violence against him and his property, your team at CrossFit Parabellum and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints restored a basic act of kindness in providing him and his family restored faith that there are people of all races and all religions that value and offer kindness to all. Your thoughtfulness in organizing this act demonstrates your kind spirit and devotion to the community. Not only do your contributions make you an excellent choice as a Million Acts of Kindness Award recipient, may your actions be a reminder to all to act in a kind spirit to all members of society. On behalf of the entire City Council and the grateful community, may I extend our sincere recognition, congratulations, and most of all, our thanks on your noteworthy contributions. Thank you so much. All right, so who's going to be a representative from each group that speaks? No? Come on up. Start us off.
So for sure it's my husband that he's at the firehouse today. He's way better at this, but I was raised in a family that believes we all bleed red and we're all human beings that deserve love. And so life is about loving one another and truly showing everyone, no matter their race, religion, or sexual orientation, they deserve to feel loved. We are all children of God, and the second greatest commandment is to love thy neighbor. Love will always prevail over hate when we have the courage to stand up. America is founded on love and freedom, and it is our obligation to keep that alive. So, thank you.
Sergey, I'm requiring you to come speak.
Thank you for everybody coming here. I feel today one nation under God.
Well, I just want to say thank you. And these certificates, even though I don't have a couple dozen, we'll hand out just these two, and we can get you guys duplicates. But I'm just so thankful and proud to be the mayor of a town that responds to hatred with such positive love. And so you guys all should be very proud of yourselves and very thankful that this is the type of community that we live in. So give them one more round of applause. Should I speak? Yes. All right, before we leave, and I know that they all sat down, but I actually had Carmen are you with Congressman, Assemblyman Heath Flores, that gave him a promotion. Flores' office, come on up.
Thank you, Mayor Soiset, members of the council, our chief, our fire department, our police staff, everyone who's here, friends and neighbors. My name is Carmen Morad, and I'm here on behalf of Congressman Jeff Denham, who is at a debate at the House in Modesto. I am here to express his wishes that what happened to Surjit will not be tolerated. He asked me to express his wishes that have to do with the strength of our community coming together and also showing the love, that love prevails. And as a member of a community that pulls together in times of trouble and in times of hate, especially in the beautiful city of Turlock and with the great leadership that we have, I would like to thank, on behalf of our congressman, all the members of the community who stepped up to help one of our greatest leaders, community leaders, Mr. Surjit Mali. Thank you again for honoring him.
All right, thank you so much. Is there anyone else who would like to say any words on this topic? Yes, please come forward. Sorry.
Yeah, hi, my name is Harpreet Singh. I have been part of this community from about 9-10 years, and when I have just heard about this news and just seen on Facebook that something happen like that. So first of all, it was really hard to believe because we have not seen any kind of incidents, especially in our Central Valley. We used to hear about such incident in Fresno or in Washington state or other states. So it was really hard to believe that something has happened. And when I just read the article, it just says a person was installing the sign. And then on the spot, I just thought it's Mr. Mully, because he's one of the person who is much more politically involved, because he want to put forth our community and the ideas which we bring and our values in front in the political spectrum. So I think all the community in Turlock or either in nearby counties have provided overwhelming support to him, and I'd like to thanks for that. And I'd like to touch the idea, means the person who felt that doesn't belong here, and he just mentioned that go back to your country. And I like to touch about the idea of country. What is mean by a country? A country doesn't mean a piece of land. It means any piece of land you cannot just call a country. Then what a country means? And even country doesn't mean a group of people just living at some place, because we were not a country before late 1700s. Our founding fathers have decided that we have to create a country. Because a country, even if you read the conventions which took place even before the declarations and the meetings which took place and the papers which were put forth by different founding fathers, the concept was the country is about the principles where the people are living together under certain common rules. So country is not piece of place, and country is not a piece of people that are just living there without any reason. So these are the rules which founds a country. And this is the same country which afford those people who have attacked him to express their political views and to express their religion. And this is the same country which provides the right to him. And I think it would be interesting to look, means I have confidence in our law enforcement that these people will be brought to justice and they will be arrested, they will have their own arraignment. And this would be the same country which would provide them the rights which they will get in a criminal justice system as every kind of defendant gets. So this is the same country which will not discriminate against him even if he has done a hate crime. So that's the generousness of this country and the community. And I feel confident, especially about our community, even if those people would be in trouble in future for their lives. So I can confidently say that if there would be any Sikh community member around, that would be the member who would put his life on line to save him. So that's the community we are talking about here. So the idea of whole country is not just about one person's views. It's about these principles and to work with those principles and to respect those principles. And again, I like to thanks to all the members of Turlock community and also the mayor and the leadership which has put this issue on spot, because it's needed. This kind of activities are not tolerated in our society, and it should not. Because if we don't stop these kind of things, and we are fortunate enough that he didn't got hurt badly, because if we don't stop these kind of things, it will provide an encouragement to those people. If you like to build your own country, sure, means let us know, we can survey you a land and maybe we can finance that. And if you can live in peace in such a way, we are willing to do that. But this is not the country you are talking about, or maybe you have a wrong idea about. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this issue? Yes. Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bob Elliott, County Supervisor for District 5 of San Joaquin County. So it may be a little strange that someone from another county is coming down here for this event. But when I heard what had happened to Surjit, I was extremely dismayed. We had become friends several months ago. So when he told me that there was going to be a recognition tonight of the people that had helped him and of him, he invited me to come down, so I thought that I would like to do that. Because I empathize with this sense of community and this sense of looking after one another. I spent 30 years serving my country in the U.S. Army after graduating from the military academy at West Point. And that was one thing that we did in the military. All of our brothers and sisters in arms looked after one another. You have to. That's the only way you can accomplish the things that need to be done. So I was extremely happy to see this same sense of community, this sense of looking after one another being exhibited right here in Turlock, and I just wanted to come down and congratulate the city of Turlock for having such exemplary values and such a sense of community that they could demonstrate to the entire state and to the country. So congratulations, and I'm also very happy to see my friend Surjit looking very healthy again after being attacked, and I'm so happy that members of the community came to his assistance. So thank you all for being such a great example, and thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight.
Is there anyone else? Mr. Johnson? Yeah, please. This is public participation for this item, so come on up. We'll open it up again.
Frank Johnson, former president of the Modesto Stanislaus branch of the NAACP, now president and CEO of the NAAAP, the National Association for the Advancement of All People. This situation has good in it. It is a horrible, horrible crime. But all of you here are here because you have found the good in the bad. You've come together. And coming together and putting aside the differences, the religions, the cultures, sometimes is very trying, very difficult. So you've taken a negative and made a positive out of it. I continue with the organization to support all cultures, and I hope that each and every one of you will take advantage of this situation and support all cultures, regardless of creed, religion, sexual preference. This is something good now. Please take advantage of it. Continue to stand with one another. I will stand with you. Promote each other, and promoting is the strength that creates the bond between all cultures. And I love what he said about a country. It belongs to all of us, and it's in writing. Look at your Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on this topic like to speak? Yeah, please come forward.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jaspreet Kaur, And I am the 209 community organizer for Jakarta Movement, which is the nation's leading Sikh youth organization. We're a nonprofit. So first of all, I'd like to thank the city of Turlock for even providing the space for us to all come together after such a tragic event that has happened within our community. I would like to invite you all to our town hall meeting. So the Jakarta Movement, we are putting on a town hall to specifically discuss these hate crimes. And we are especially calling all youth members. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear all of you. We want to see all of you here. We want to have all of our community to actually get together and talk about, why are these things happening? Could they have been prevented? And what are we as a community going to do going forward? I appreciate this space. I appreciate all of us to come together and talk about it. But what are our next steps? What is the future like for all of us as Americans, as Sikh Americans? And lastly, to just kind of say, what are we committed to? I am from the Jakarta Movement, and I am committed to continuously bringing youth together and, providing the sense of community, the sense of belonging in all of us, because we all are American. So I hope to see you next Thursday. Our event is at the Heart and Soul Cafe. It's 930 11th Street in Modesto. So again, that's the Heart and Soul Cafe. We'll be there from 7 to 9 p.m. And please come, and we want to hear what you all have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the public on this item? All right, thank you so much for your words. And then now I'm going to ask Glenna Jackson to come on up. And we have a substitute. Come on up for the Pet of the Month. I like it. Give a round of applause. Glenna 2.0.
Hello, I am Carrie Rhodes, coming in as a substitute for Glenna Jackson, the shelter supervisor for animal services. I am here to present the Pet of the Month. This is for August Pet of the Month that we have here at the animal shelter, where we choose an animal to be provided as Pet of the Month. The TMAPS department pays for that in order to get an animal adopted for the month, which includes the spay, neuter, microchip, first vaccine, rabies vaccine, and license for City of Turlock residents. This is last month's Pet of the Month. Her name was Liberty with her new family. So 4th of July, Liberty. So that's kind of where she got her name. Our Pet of the Month for this month. Thank you. Please, everyone, my Vanna White, Chief of Police. Thank you very much. So August Pet of the Month is Skipper, a 6-month-old terrier mix. He walks well on a leash, gets along with other animals. This dog is adorable. This little dog shakes and wiggles and is very, very happy to see people, kids, other dogs, cats. He is happy with everyone. He just wants to be part of the family. So please come down and take a look. He will be available tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. when we open. Okay. So this month, we're back again for Summer Tan Special. So during the month of August, any animal that's adopted with the shade of tan is under 50 pounds. It's $40 for the adoption, so it's half off, and all of the things I mentioned earlier, spay and neuter, vaccinations, license, is all included with that. And the cats and kittens adoption fee is $25. I just want to add from last year with D-Hart, he was wanting to know about the glasses. Want to let you know the classes are available for that pup before he goes in for the tan special. So we have that available for you this year with those comments from last year. So just want to bring that up. We also have the spay and neuter voucher programs that are happening, so we can help get those dogs and cats spayed or neutered in the city of Turlock. We have $50 vouchers for dogs, under 50 pounds for males, under 40 pounds for females, to where they can get spayed or neutered, rabies shot, microchip, and a 1-year license. So we can help the community get their animals spayed or neutered and licensed with the city of Turlock. The cat vouchers are $20. That includes a spay or neuter and a microchip for them as well. So that will conclude this presentation. We are located at 801 South Walnut. We're open Monday through Saturday from 10 to 2. We do have our Facebook, where you can see all of the animals at Turlock Animal Services or City of Turlock website. And again, the Pet of the Month will be available tomorrow, 10 a.m., first come, first serve, when we open up. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, Carrie. so much. All right, moving on. We have a special briefing from Police Chief Anfar on the Police Activities League.
That's me. Honorable Mayor, council members, our city manager, Mr. Lawton, and our community. I wanted to give an update on our Turlock Police Activities League for those of you that know what the Turlock Police Activities League is, and those of you that are just seeing it for the first time. The Turlock Police Department, the P is back in the Police Activities League. Several years ago, we were unable to participate, and the way we participated was providing funding to our fantastic recreation department who's been doing all of our after-school programs. We have since reestablished Turlock Police Activities League, and we have a board, and it's a nonprofit, and as we progress through each year, we will have fundraising events. Currently, our first fundraising event is going to be sponsored by Verani Smile. It's Battle of the Badges. It'll be August 25th. I wish it was October, it'd be a lot cooler. But August 25th, the Turlock Police Officers Association will be versus the Fire Union, and they'll be doing it all for charity. There's no cost, and I invite the public, bring your family, friends, enjoy the morning. It's at 10 a.m. at Ped Ready, and we hope to sell the t-shirts, and the t-shirts were designed, as you can see, 2 softballs, police badge and a fire badge with a bat in the middle, and it's the Battle of the Badges, and again, it's sponsored by Verani Smiles, and the way we'll make money on this event is to sell those t-shirts. The t-shirts will be for sale at the event, and they're pre-sale right now at the police department, Tuesday through Friday, and we take credit cards. So with that, I wanted to, it took a while to get that credit card thing going, but we got it. Those are the t-shirts. That's the front and back. And appreciate all the support. All the money goes back into our community for our kids. So far this year, we've been able to sponsor $2,000 worth of funding for Westside Ministries, for basketball, soccer programs. We funded gifts for those programs also, including tickets to the fair. And we've also funded 1,000 tickets to our pools during the summertime. So it's just a start, but you got to start somewhere. So we're hoping that we continue to expand. So thank you for your time. And if you'd like one of those t-shirts, you know where to get them. Stop by the police department lobby. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, Chief. Very good work. All right, moving on to public participation. This is time set aside for the public to address the council on any item that they'd like. You'll have 5 minutes, and if you can, make sure you can think of your comments because you only have one shot to come up for that 5-minute interval. With that, Ms. Diane Bartlett, come on up for library events.
Good evening. Thank you so much. My name's Diane Bartlett. I'm the supervising librarian at the Turlock Public Library. I just wanted to mention a couple things that are going on at the library, but before I do, I had someone come in a couple weeks ago and said a few words to me, and I said, can I share that at the city council? And she said, you make sure, and you go to the city council, and you tell them what I just said. So here's what she said. Turlock is such a friendly city. I've been here for 2 weeks. I've lived all over, and it is amazing here. Everyone smiles and is so helpful. So she wanted me to let you know that, and there you go. So just moving on to my amazing Turlock staff. During the month of August, we are between story times. And what that means is that we'll be starting up story times again in September on Wednesdays and Thursday mornings. In the meantime, when that happens, we usually have a couple special events. One event is the We Move and Play Day, and that will be tomorrow at 10. So if all babies, toddlers, and preschoolers and their adult helpers are invited to that, and it's always a lot of fun. I understand that they're going to have shredded paper there, and the last time that happened, we had shredded paper all over the room, so something to look forward to. And then on August 27th at 6:30, we have family story time with the mayor. So again, thank you for participating with that. And then also I've been announcing our special bookmark contest. We have selected a winner, or I should say the committee, including, and our mayor was on that committee, selected a winner Her name is Renee Woolley, and I invited her tonight, but she has a conflict. So she won the bookmark contest that was in honor of our 25th year for the Friends of the Library and the 50 year for the Turlock building being where it is. And I'm sure you're all eager to see that winning design, and that will be unveiled in October because that is the Friends of the Library Week, National Friends of the Library Week in October. So make sure you stop by the library then and pick up a special one-time only commemorative bookmark. And that's pretty much it for tonight. Thank you so much for your attention. See you at the library.
Thanks so much, Diane. Very good. Mr. Treeweiler.
Mayor, council, staff, and fellow Turlock citizens, Milt Treeweiler. I have a presentation that I do occasionally, so the citizens here are probably not all familiar with it, but what it is, it's a history of U.S. recessions. I hand a flyer out to the council and the staff so that they can see where we are in this history of U.S. recessions. I started this in 1945 to date, and what it tells us is we've had 12 recessions since 1945. Some of these recessions have been as short as 1 year between the end of the previous recession and the start of the next recession. However, also on this list, there was one that was actually 10 years from the end of the recession to the beginning of the next recession. The Great Recession, which we just went through, was actually just 9 years and 2 months ago. So we've reached a point now where we are the second longest distance between the end of a recession and the beginning of a recession. What is that telling us? That's telling us that this nation is going to go into another recessional period. Not something we want to see, not something we like, but it's a reality. It's history, it's going to happen again. And again, I wish sometime I could get this on the screen so you could actually view it. Maybe I'll try that later on. But I've got, I want to go on here. I have a copy here of the Wall Street Journal. This is Tuesday, July 31st, 2018. And there's an article in here. It's called State and Local Pension Woes Are Starting to Bite. The shortfall is hitting retirees with little time to engineer a Plan B. It's by Sarah Crouch. For the past century, a public pension was an ironclad promise. Whatever else happened, retired policemen and firefighters and teachers would be paid. That is no longer the case. Many cities and states can no longer afford the unsustainable retirement promises made to millions of public workers over many years. By one estimate, there's a shortfall of $5 trillion, an amount that is roughly equal to the output of the world's third largest economy. Certain pension funds face the prospect of insolvency unless government increases taxes, diverts funds to or persuades workers to relinquish money that they are owed. It is increasingly likely that retirees, as well as new workers, will be forced to take deeper benefit cuts. On the back side of this handout that I gave the council and staff, I asked the question or make the statement, as mayor and council members, it's important that you have a realistic approach to decision making. In other words, we've got to accept the fact that this is coming up. We don't know when, but it could be very soon because it's the second longest time period since that our last recession. Making good decisions requires factual information, and that's where our staff comes in. This is going to be something that we need to solve. It's something that's coming up, and this is a time to think about it, not when it gets here. Look at it in advance. My question to council and staff is $11 million sufficient reserves to get the city through our next recession? Is that what it's going to take to get our city through the next recession? I mean, would it be better to be $12 million in reserve, $13 million in reserve, $14 million, or even $15 million in reserve? We've got to face this reality. I bring up the Cambridge Dictionary definition of delusion, something a person believes and wants to be true when it's not actually true. So if anyone believes we will not go into another recession, they're delusional. It's going to happen. An illusion is something that's seized by producing a false, misleading impression of reality. I have a quote on here, and I'm just going to pass that up. I'm going to just end by saying, this is a quote, I have to fill it in later, but progress is not in itself a force of nature. It's a result of human action. So one more time, progress is not in itself a force of nature. Progress is a result of human action. We need to take action and solve these problems before they actually occur. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Turlock. Rose Stilla. Come on, Rose. A familiar face here at City Hall.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Rose Stillo, as you mentioned, and I'm here representing the Turlock Garden Club. Reason, we have some fans here, I hope. Reason for my appearance is mainly to invite the council and the senior staff to our 70th anniversary party. I would venture to say that we're probably one of the longest standing clubs in Turlock, so kind of proud of that. First, I just want to mention a few things about our club, because I know that once I joined the club, people would ask me, what do you guys do? You take care of the pots downtown. Well, yes, we do, but we do a lot more. And besides taking care of the pots, we also take care of the landscaping at Jessica's house. We do also contribute to the Carnegie Center's landscaping. And some of the things that I'm just going to quickly mention. Well, first of all, let me back up for a second. I wanted to mention our objective, because I think this is worth stating to everybody in the public too. Our objective is to stimulate the knowledge and love of gardening, to aid in the protection of native trees, plants, and birds, to encourage civic planting, and to support charitable causes through donations. So I want to mention, again, some of the ways we do that, and I've already mentioned the pots in Jessica's house and so on. But I also want to say that over the years, we've contributed over $6,500 to Penny Pines, which is a program that helps reforest our Stanislaus National Forest. We offer on an annual basis $6,000 in scholarship monies to local high school and college students. We've contributed over $1,000 to the Turlock Gospel Mission for the homeless shelter landscaping. We donated over 100 teddy bears to the children at Jessica's house. And we participate in the downtown Christmas parade and the Stanislaus Fair every year. Of course, some of you are familiar with the garden tour that we put on every spring that we're very proud of, and really that's our major fundraising event, so please support that if you can. And I want to just extend a quick invitation to everybody that might be interested. We're not just a club of women, as some may think. We welcome all people, and I hope we see some men join our club. We do meet at the Senior Center the second Monday of every month from September through June. So with that, I just want to say again that we are having, in September the 10th, we're having our 70th anniversary party at our regular meeting. And I have individual invitations for everyone at the dais and the side table here, and we hope that anybody that can join us, please come. There's going to be food, entertainment. I think you'll have a lot of fun. And you'll see on the invitation that there is a prize going to be awarded for the best hat. So wear your finest 40s hat.
Absolutely.
Men, have their own thing too back in the 40s. So again, thank you for this time, and hope to see you all there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Rose. Give her a round of applause. I'm resisting asking like a zoning or planning question right now, so I'll let it be done. Yeah. Thank you so much, Rose. All right, Eric Cervantes. It's Eric here.
Hello, everybody. I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Thank you to all the city members and the mayor for being here. My name is Eric Cervantes. I am a cannabis advocate, and you're going to hear me talk about cannabis today. So with that being said, I pulled up the Turlock Municipal Code under Article 1, Prohibition, heading. It states that commercial cannabis, marijuana activities in all types, including but not limited to dispensaries, collectives, cooperatives, transportation, distribution, cultivation, manufacturing, delivery, testing, and processing are expressly prohibited in all zones, planned developments, and all specific and master plan areas in the city of Turlock. No person shall establish, operate, conduct, or allow any commercial cannabis, marijuana activity anywhere within the city. I believe that this is wrong and that the city council should consider regulating and taxing this industry, because at the end of the day, this plant is a therapeutic natural medicine. Many cancer patient veterans that suffer from PTSD and children with epilepsy use the plant's therapeutic components to treat their illnesses. They do not all use the THC and get high, the chemical component that causes a person to be high. These patients also use the CBD and terpenes to help them with their illnesses. And there is new research from various universities that shows that cannabis can heal. I would like to bring alternative medicines to opioids to stop the opioid addiction that is taking place in America right now, and bring herbal medicines back into society. The city should use the tax money to invest in schools, roads, and help the communities that were victims on the war on drugs. Maybe save it up for the new recession coming up. I encourage the city of Turlock to allow legal cannabis activity in selected areas to bring opportunities and new jobs into the city. I encourage the city of Turlock to allow outdoor and greenhouse cannabis cultivation, because that is a sustainable way to grow a crop. If a plan ever passes, I encourage the city to limit indoor cultivation facilities, because that method of cultivation leaves an enormous carbon footprint that can affect future generations. I encourage the city council board members and the mayor to visit cities that have a cannabis regulated market, so that they can see for themselves how it works, and that it's not just a stigma of hippies that are the ones running it. I do not promote the use of cannabis illegally or to anyone in any way. It is not for everybody, and I just know that there are good people out there that need this medicine, and I am here to stand up and speak for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a comment? Kelvin Jasic.
Hello, my name is Kelvin Jasek Risdal. I'm here representing We Care program. We Care program is I'll read the mission statement of We Care. Our mission is to provide transitional and emergency shelter and support services in collaboration with other agencies to assist homeless individuals in becoming self-sufficient. We are having an open house tomorrow, Wednesday the 15th, from 4 to 6. We invite members of the council and any members of the community to stop by, learn about our services. We, in addition to having an emergency shelter, we provide a program for chronically homeless individuals, giving them housing. We have a homeless prevention program that allows people who are behind 1 month's rent, we can help pay for their rent. And a rapid rehousing program that allows people to get into some, if we find a rental place, we can help them with deposits, first month's rent, and some additional month's rent. So we want to talk about our programs. The city has helped, we want to show the shelter. The city is with a CDGB grant, has helped us with, helped repair some bathrooms, and so we want to show people the shelter. The shelter, emergency shelter opens Friday for homeless men, adult men, and again, please come tomorrow between 4 and 6. So we'll be glad to show you what we have and talk about our services. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Kelvin, did you want to share also, you were asking the other night at the meeting about you need people to help volunteer on Wednesday nights or something? You want to go ahead and...
It's, listening to all the different presentations and how supportive people in Turlock are, we have people, you can go onto our website, wecareturlock.org. We have a serving calendar. We rely on people to provide meals. Every one of our meals is provided by volunteers. You can sign up for a night online, and so that's one of the ways we want volunteers. So the more volunteers we get, more people that we get, it's really helpful to us. So yeah, thank you for that as well.
Thank you so much. Mr. Franson.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'd like to talk about internet. So we had another charter outage, and the times before that I've spoke on it isn't necessarily just about charter or just internet service, as some people are commenting, saying it's like a petty issue. And also it's not a government issue, because people are talking about, you know, not being able to watch their movies or do their schoolwork, and that people have cell phone data. So you do still have some access. And also, I believe it's a free market. But I've seen some comments too about people not being able to get certain services on certain streets. So I just would really request that it be brought up, probably at this level, because I know there is a franchise agreement. I don't know if it's with the state of California, but the city does receive fees, I believe, or there's some sort of a use for our local government to, I believe, allow them to use the right-of-ways. So, but on a more important note, probably from the topic of internet service, would probably be the infrastructure. There are cities that have discussed high-speed broadband, or some form of a connectivity with fiber, and then also citywide wireless with the Wi-Fi hotspots. And then we have some of the cities that are part of the League of California Cities that are discussing basically internet connectivity and also the use of, so Internet of Things, so everything working together. I believe that, I mean, our city, I haven't heard too much about it at all, but I'm pretty sure almost everyone's using internet. I just heard something about cell towers, I think, in the planning joint meeting. So I would request that the city government look into that. I don't know if it's maybe a staff workshop with probably the public, if the council has anything to say on it. But I do know a lot of people are frustrated with the outages, and it's just really hard to believe that something a lot of people are dependent on like that, we can't do anything for, I mean, I'm not saying we can't do anything for ourselves. I'm saying we can't do anything about it when you're 4 hours out of service, 6 hours, 8 hours. We had a couple where it was 10 or 11 hours, and I think the last outage, I'm not exactly sure, but I believe it was around 12 to 15 hours. And I've heard some requests maybe about calling charter representatives before council, because you guys are a government, and they do use our services with our government. And maybe if you get a report for us to understand how it takes them 15 hours, like without any internet, and also what the city's doing about building out that infrastructure with high-speed, with the high-speed fiber, high-speed broadband, if we're gonna ever plan on doing any sort of connectivity citywide, and how the city's really gonna use that. And also for local business too, that's another thing. So we're getting more and more complaints online about businesses that use it for their credit card transactions, and also that's how they're connected to their off-site inventory. So there are some local business issues, and for our economy going forward. I think that's such a major thing right now, and we haven't really heard anything. So I don't know what the process would be to get that agendized, but if you guys could, I think a lot of people would appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Franson. Mr. City Manager, I believe you've been already looking into this and working with the City Attorney's Office.
If I may, Mr. Mayor. I shared the same experience on Saturday as so many other people in the city. The good thing was, however, that it did induce us to go out and spend money in stores, and so we contributed back to the sales tax. But seriously, for people who are dependent upon the internet for their livelihood or for other vital services like telephone, because if you get your telephone, You have no access to the outside world. It's a terrible spot to be in. I took a look at reports of outages around the country, and on Saturday, Spectrum was out in major areas across the United States, not just the Central Valley, not just that single area that they talked about down to San Luis Obispo, and that was the reason we were out, but you go to Florida, the Northeast, Chicago, big red spots on the map. And so obviously they're having some serious management issues, and this apparently happens once a month. Now, for the city, we do have an executed franchise agreement with Spectrum. And it actually dates back to the 80s, I think, with some company that was bought by another company and by another company. However, in 2006, State of California passed the Digital Infrastructure and Video Competition Act. And what that did was it took out of local hands the ability to grant franchises for cable and now internet operation. Those decisions are made up in Sacramento. It's true that localities, including the city of Turlock, receive a franchise fee, but we don't have any governing authority. We have nothing really to hold over the head of Spectrum. Certainly, there may be some things we can do if and when those franchise agreements come up for renewal with the state, and I think that, speaking for myself, I'd be happy to lead a delegation of citizens up to Sacramento to make our views known about the quality of service we get, and I think probably there'll be plenty of people from around the state of California. Now, our city attorney, Jose Sanchez, has prepared a memorandum of law on this that goes into it in more detail and will be shared with council. And we are looking at our own agreements just to verify that there are no other loopholes or mousetraps we can pull. But the state's pretty good. When they preempt you really well. So we're going to keep an eye on it. We will be vocal with Spectrum, and we will certainly be vocal with the state, and I would be happy to be made aware of any organized efforts on the part of folks here in Turlock and anywhere else in the state. You know, they had their own problems back in New York, and the government in New York, the state government, cordially invited them to stop providing internet service entirely, pack up, and take the business elsewhere. So, don't know if that's a solution for us, but I certainly get the concern.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much for looking into that. Bonnie Stapleton. Bonnie Stapleton, come on up. Talking about city trees.
Hi. Thank you, Mayor, City Council. This is my first time here, so I'm kind of nervous. But on the 26th of July, I filed a complaint because where we live in Turlock, over by Taylor and Walnut, there's the jog path, and there's city trees on the jog path side, and then there's the residential side. And I looked up in the city of Turlock and the responsibility of the trees to maintain. And well, my husband and I, we had just purchased a brand new travel trailer, 28 foot. We were coming down our street and going this way, so our truck was towards the street side, near the jog path side. And the roads are very narrow on the north side. Anywho, so as we were going down, on the residential side, there were parked cars, and there was a car that was coming in the opposite direction. So we were forced to hug the side near the jog path. Well, for quite some time, the trees have been overgrowing and overgrowing. Every week, I noticed the scavenger trucks were breaking off branches because the trees were so overgrown. And this particular day, when we were coming down with our trailer, we were forced to hug it as close as possible, and these branches scraped up the side of our trailer. And because they're so narrow, if there's parked residential cars on the street and two cars can't go down at the same time, and especially with the travel trailer, I do have pictures, and I would just hope that you guys could take into consideration, on the 25th of July, I was so just overwhelmed because we just bought a brand new trailer 3 weeks prior on the 16th of March. And then this happened on the 9th of April. I kept seeing every week these branches being broken off from the scavenger garbage trucks. Every Monday we'd have branches down the street. Well, the city of Turlock finally had cut off all the branches. Now it's completely clean, and that's when I thought, you know, maybe I should bring it to the city's attention that, you know, maybe they could consider paying for some of the damages, because we had no way around this because of such tight roads, the small roads, and the overhanging branches. And I think that if they were maintained earlier in the spring, all this could have been prevented. But I do have some pictures of our, us when we bought it. But I do have some pictures of what the trees look like today. Because there's the road. I just took this today, and so the branches are nicely trimmed, but unfortunately, I should have taken pictures. But if you do speak with any of the garbage truck driver or the scavenger drivers, they could let you know. I don't know if I'm supposed to go about this, and then I have pictures of my trailer. I did submit it in an email when I first filled out the complaint, but it's not a huge amount, but I just think that it's only fair, since we do maintain our trees on our side of the block, but because they hadn't been maintained in quite some time, it messed up the side of our trailer, our awning and stuff.
Absolutely. So if you want to leave some of that information and get her comfort, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right here. But if you want to leave that information with Stacy as well. And then I know that Alice Mangala, you were taking notes about that. Her department is the one that tackles our trees.
I looked up all I found for the city of Turlock was just for the residents to maintain. I didn't really find anything as far as the city, but I mean, this is the city stuff. And then as far as our trailer, and I just wanted to show you that we did just buy it on the 16th, but these were the pictures of where the branches, toward the molding on the corner, and then the awning, and then this is the street, but like here's one car parked, but when we came, and then another vehicle going that way, it just really, the streets are very narrow, and I mean, I sure miss the old streets, the way, go down Penn Avenue, and it's, oh my gosh, you could have a football game down there. But all the new houses on the north side, even near the schools, two cars can't go down at the same time. One has to stop, and then the other kind of makes their way. But this was a copy of my report.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, the copy of the report's within our agenda. Thank you so much. Thank you. Anybody else like to address the council on any item that they'd like? All right, with that, I'll close public participation. Moving on to motion waiving reading of all ordinances on the agenda except by title.
So moved.
Do I have a second? We have a motion by Councilmember DeHart, second by Vice Mayor Jacob. Please call the roll.
Waiving reading of all ordinances on the agenda except by title. Councilmember Esquer.
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart.
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Mayor Soisek.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Declaration of conflicts of interest and disqualifications. Seeing none, disclosure of top 10 maximum contributors can be found within the agenda. Moving on to the consent calendar, there's been a request to remove item 5O and 5W, 5O by DeHart, Councilmember DeHart, and 5O by Councilmember Scare. Are there any other items that like to be removed? 5Q by Councilmember Bublak. Anything else? All right, what is the pleasure of the council on the consent calendar minus 5O, W, and Q?
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor Jacob, seconded by Councilmember DeHart. Clerk, please call the roll.
Adopting the amended consent calendar, Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soisette.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item 5O. Who's going to take that on? Oh, Mary. Ms. Pitt's going to take it.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item is asking for some additional funds to be appropriated for our project across the street in the 8 units. As we've gotten into it, like any old structure and doing remodeling and rehabilitation, that we have come to realize a few things. One of them is that there was one main water line serving all 8 units. So if somebody had a pipe break underneath their sink, we'd have to turn off the water to all 8 units in order to rectify the situation. So we've worked with municipal services, and so we've put in all new water lines. The plumbing's all been done, and it gets a little expensive. We have charted out the subsidy limits using home funds, and we had come up with the subsidy limits are based on the number of bedrooms, and so we have a few studio units across there, and all the stuff, the expensive stuff, it doesn't matter whether it's 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom, it applies. So we've come back and asking for the $91,000 out of the Housing Successor Agency funds. Those are the old housing RDA funds, to augment the costs with those studio units so we don't exceed HUD's subsidy limit for any of the units. So we're probably about 45 days out from finishing, and we'll be coming back to council with an item in the next couple of meetings with some recommendations as to what we're going to do with the units. But in the meantime, we're in the remodeling stage, and as it usually is with remodeling projects, they always cost more than you think they're going to. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember DeHart, you want to explain?
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, Ms. Pitt, I wanted to bring attention to this item because I think with all of the attention on affordable, transitional housing requirements that the city has, obviously this is your work in terms of organizing and planning and arranging for funding and coming to us for approval on those funds. But it's far too important not to talk about it. So I appreciate your description of what's going on. The reality that it is for transitional housing. This is not even really low-cost housing when you get right down to it. It's transitional housing, as we work with many of the agencies here in town. And so thank you for the work that you do. I think it's critically important work. And I frankly, Mayor, outside other discussion and concerns, would recommend approval of this item.
All right, sounds good. Any additional comments or questions from the council or the audience on this item? All right, I heard a motion out of that. Do I have a second? All right, we have a motion by Councilmember DeHart, seconded by Councilmember Esquer. Clerk, please call the roll.
Appropriating $91,000 to account number 625-10199-47200-001, Housing Set Aside Projects, Affordable Housing Development, from Fund 625, Successor Agency LMI, Unallocated Reserves, to complete the rehabilitation project for 201 A Street, Turlock. Appropriating $150,000 to account number 256-41486-47225-002, Affordable Housing Prior, from Fund 256, Stanislaus Housing Consortium, Unallocated Reserves, to complete the rehabilitation project for 201 8th Street, Turlock. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soisette.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Ms. Pitt. Item Q. Who's going to take item Q on? Or actually, I'll start with Councilmember Bublak with her concerns.
So I appreciate that this is, the item is to just dictate who will be the voting member to go to Long Beach. But thank you for the segue, Milt. Actually, on your piece of paper, you said 11 million. We're going under about 6.5. We're deficit spending. So I'd love a free trip on the taxpayer's dime to go to Long Beach, but I really think this is inappropriate when we're deficit spending and we still have more employees to compensate for the work they're doing for us. So for those reasons, I will not support this.
All right. Any additional comments or questions? So I don't know if we have the cost here, because that's not the item before us, because we approve a travel budget at the beginning of the fiscal year, but do we have the?
Thank you, Mayor. We can confirm the dollar amount for you, but I believe it's under $2,000 per attendee. And as you mentioned, it is approved as part of the budget for each year.
Okay. So additional comments or questions? All right, any questions or comments from the audience? What's the pleasure of the council on this item? All right, do you have a second? All right, we have a motion by Vice Mayor Jacobs, seconded by Councilmember DeHart. Clerk, please call the roll.
Designating Councilmember DeHart as the voting delegate and Councilmember Jacob as the alternate voting delegate at the League of California Cities Annual Business Meeting on Friday, September 14th, 2018 in Long Beach, California. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
No.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soised.
Yes, motion carries 4-1, and as always, you guys will be coming back with the report as to what exactly happened. All right, perfect. Item W, I think Jacobs Hunter's taking this one.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item 5W is the acceptance of the City of Turlock's financial statements for fiscal year 16-17. I had received an inquiry from Councilmember Scare asking some questions about the statements. I prepared a short PowerPoint to go over the financial statements. The reason why they weren't on the regularly scheduled matters originally was we have been talking about these financial statements in their unaudited form since March, when we first started having our mid-year budget review meetings and augmentation requests from the departments. So hopefully this information will not look brand new. So this is from actual overview of the general fund for fiscal year 16-17. This should look very familiar. This was in our March or May budget review when we went over the unaudited fiscal year end. It's now been audited, and I apologize that the increase of fund balance is in red. That was supposed to come out in black, but we actually had a very good year in 16-17. Our revenues came in higher than anticipated, approximately a little over 1.1 million. The majority of that was from one-time revenues we received from the successor agency and from the RPTTF fund, which is also associated with the successor agency. Those are one-time revenues, and those were $638,000. We did have some growth on our property tax, a little over $500,000. So that accounts for the majority of the revenue that we received over and above our original estimates. On the expenditure side, the departments did well. We came in under the appropriations that were approved by council, approximately 1.1 million, and the majority of that was in the public safety area. There were vacant funded positions to the tune of $667,000. That represented 58% of the unspent appropriations. So that gave us an increase to fund balance of $2.2 million. Hopefully everybody got their management discussion and analysis. This is a short version of the very long financial statements that were also available. And I put some of these on the back table for anybody that would like to see, and the PowerPoint. So that's a brief overview of the general fund. We just talked about the fact that our Fund 110, 111 increased to $11,081,000 and some change at 6/30/17. That was an increase of $2.2 million over the previous fiscal year, and the three reasons why we saw that increase. So this was a picture of, this shows our general fund reserve from 2012-13 through how we have the audited number now for 16-17. It shows how the budget was originally adopted in 17-18 and 18-19. Those were status quo budgets. They just reflected known increases that we knew to salary and benefits. So we were going to hover around that 10, 11 million dollar mark. The dip there in 14-15 was temporary. The council did some significant things in 14-15. One of them, and Mr. Truweiler talked a little bit about the unfunded public pensions and the fact that those liabilities grow. This council took action in 14-15 and paid down for our public safety, for police and fire, paid down some of our unfunded retirement liability that we were being charged 7.5%. PERS was charging us that per year, 7.5%. By us paying that down, we were able to save that dollar. We were able to save those dollar amounts, save huge amounts of interest because we are not earning anywhere near 7.5% on our investments. So that was the temporary dip, and we did not have the proceeds in yet. The escrow hadn't closed from the sale of 900 North Palm. So the 2014-15 number there, that 6.6, was really around 9.7. So we've kind of been hovering in that area. Does anyone have any questions on this part? No? Okay. This is an actual snapshot of the budgets that were adopted on June 13th of 2017. Council adopted a two-year status quo budget for 17-18, 18-19. We were planning on having our expenses exceed our revenue a little bit in 17-18 to the tune of $168,000, and 18-19 we were looking at about $68,000. So that's just a snapshot from the budget. And then to talk about a little more current what's happened since those budgets were adopted on June 13th of 17. This shows for 17-18 all the amendments that have been approved, the resolution number and the dollar amount. We have budgeted and projected that our expenses will exceed our revenue by $1,343,722 for 17-18. Then we move to 18-19, and we have there all the amendments that have been approved, the resolution, description, and we're looking approximately right now for 18-19 at dipping into our reserves of $3,293,000. So at the bottom there, I did a short summary showing we know our audited fund balance for 16-17 was $11,081,000. There's our budgeted operating deficit for 17-18 of the $1,000,003. That will bring us down to back into that 9.7 range at the end of this fiscal year. That was as of last month. And then for 18-19, we have, based on the amendments that have been adopted by council, we're projecting that we will fall right below the 6.5 million threshold, which resolution 123 sets at 6.5. And that's the bar graph now with everything that's been approved to date. Everything that we know.
Thank you.
Questions?
City Manager, do you have any insight into, I know that you were talking about it earlier, about some of the expenditures.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the picture before you is serious, but I would say not hopeless. We have a relatively stable economy here. We've seen some slowing of sales tax growth, and we probably, like everyone else, would like to see a little more robust activity on property taxes. But I want to be clear that you have a number of factors at work here, some of which go back several years, particularly relating to the engineering fund. We don't know for sure what that's going to come in at, but it does look to have a significant impact, and those numbers are not included in the general fund reserve figures that we have at the bottom of the 18-19 budget amendments. So they would be taken down once we establish what they are and make a decision about whether or not to charge those off. That would come out. And we've also got some questions about the landscape and lighting fund. So as you can see, it's a serious situation, but we do have the ability to sustain ourselves for at least another 2 years. Your budget, or the shortfalls projected here, don't include funding necessary to fulfill the city's objectives in the 5-year capital plan. And application of non-recurring reserve monies to those non-recurring expenditures will further impact general fund balance, and that'll be, the extent of that will be part of the policy decisions council makes. There's some other factors beyond our ability to control that we're looking at in the future or accurately predict are the possible repeal of SB 1 and our commitments to street light and signal costs for areas outside of the assessment district. So they're not quantified yet, but they are out there. As I noted, our reserves are sufficient to fulfill our obligations throughout the current fiscal year and through the next. Leaving the situation unaddressed at a systematic level will eventually lead to a structural deficit. It is my belief that your city staff and management do their utmost to manage the budget resources at their disposal and under their control. They contain costs, they maximize revenue to the extent that anyone can. And this is the time to call upon their talent and experience to pursue strategic fiscal decision-making approaches. We are your team, and we will work together. Preserving our stability and security will be a team effort, engaging department heads, staff, council, and the public. Although some elements will develop during the coming months, a few starting points are clear already. The city manager's office will recommend migration to a 1-year budget, placing greater focus on expense and revenue projections while maintaining a 1 to 5 year planning horizon to evaluate the sustainability of any future recommendations. Departments will be asked to organize a catalog of city programs for 2018-2019 budget preparation, enabling council to prioritize by mandates, outcomes, and efficiency, focusing as much on what we buy as on what we spend. At the time each of these expenditures that were up on the screen were approved, they were necessary and prudent, representing only incremental change. Looked at one at a time, I can understand why they were pursued. Corresponding revenue options, my understanding, were discussed most recently by this body in May. Your city team will address these trends through an inclusive process responsive to the council's priorities. Your city team will support council in addressing these trends through an inclusive process during the months ahead, responding in a sustainable manner to council priorities and the needs of our residents. I believe that the upcoming budget process, which starts with the mid-year reports in February, will be the place to see most concrete efforts, but your executive team will keep you advised in the weeks and the months ahead, leading up to that, how we are going to continue controlling this year's expenses and managing this year's budget, while at the same time providing options for council and the public to restore us to a sustainable, structurally balanced budget.
Thank you. Additional comments or questions? Yes.
So Kelly, you were talking about the resolution and an ordinance. How soon will we, if we're projecting to continue to spend down with ongoing expenses, when should that come forward for us to have to change our resolution and our ordinance?
I believe that it calls for it now, that the council has approved the respective revenue estimates and the appropriations, and shows that we will fall into the 6.42 sometime here in 18-19. So I plan to bring back an item asking the council to amend that resolution. There's nothing procedural in the resolution that called out procedures, whereas in our Turlock Municipal Code, the 7% calls out very specific procedures as to spending anything below once you hit that. So that will be up for council discussion.
Additional comments and questions? Yes, Councilmember Scarr.
Yeah, I just want to explain why I had this pulled in the first place, because as we've heard from Milt time and again, that recession is going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's just when. And I just want to make sure that the public gets a real good bird's eye view of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how it's affecting the city. We are getting borderline. I understand that we have plans to where we should be okay, but sometimes best laid plans, well, we don't even need to finish that. But that's why I just want to make sure that the information is getting out to the public so they know exactly what's going on. We have reviewed this. We've been working on this for over a year. And before we voted on it and passed it in the general consent calendar, I wanted everybody to be aware of exactly what's going on. So if there's any specific questions or problems that you see that we may have missed, I want them to come forward immediately, because we are skirting.
Perfect. Additional comments or questions from the council or the audience? Yeah. Yes, Ms. Franson.
Yeah, I was wondering if someone from staff maybe could answer me when this was known, because it wasn't too long ago that there were public statements that we had a stronger reserve than other cities. We were healthy reserve. We were in good standing fiscally. And now it sort of seems like it's not so much that. I mean, 2 years is not a long time. And I believe the reserve balance, if you put it into months, I think, or even a percentage, is probably about 17.5%. Maybe about 1.7 months is what I've heard or put to. Compared to, say, I think it was 2011, we had 17.5 million or 17.8 million and 58%. And that was during the recession years where people didn't even know what was going to happen. And it kept extending. So if we're talking about looming recession, or could be, so we're in the good years and we're doing not so great, apparently. But again, when was this known? Because just recently we heard $11 million reserve, strong, healthy, fiscally sound, but yet we have continued deficit spending. We're now looking into our low limit reserve, not the state required 7%. But also too, there was a decision here to hire or to create 4 new firefighter positions, I believe. That's ongoing costs. And so I'm just wondering, like, how it went from being so great not that long ago, like, I mean, literally I could say weeks, to now it sounds like a bad position, or at least a position to be concerned with. And also, I still have not gotten an answer to this yet about the sales tax revenue. I saw the sales tax revenue was, I think, about flat from the projected to where it ended up at 14 million. The year before it was 13 point something million. And from a lot of the accounts that I'm hearing out there dealing with businesses, especially in the marketing, so we have to watch that a lot of businesses are seeing major increase I mean, I got some clients with 20% increase. So where is the sales tax revenue? How are we not going up in the boom years? These are supposed to be great boom years compared to, say, 2015. I mean, but anyways, if someone could answer when this was known, when the spending would have been known, because just weeks ago it was great and strong, now we're getting some levels of concern. And then the sales tax, how come we're not going up when apparently other people are and businesses? Thanks.
Absolutely. So we as a council are kept aware of our reserves throughout, and we've been in negotiations for a while, which is where some of that money is being spent. I think that at the end of the day, saving money so that we can reinvest in our departments has been a philosophy of this council. It's unanimously been approved for these MOUs. We worked hard to bring them up to pre-recession levels, and now we're trying to bring them into a very competitive realm so they don't lose police officers and firefighters. As you mentioned, 3 positions for firefighters were added in addition to police officers and dispatchers, and also making sure that their MOUs are competitive so that they are not leaving for Livermore and for other higher paying jobs. So that just is a quick snapshot from there. So Mr. Bates, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Brad Bates, resident. This item is on the consent calendar, so I don't necessarily have any prepared remarks. I wasn't really expecting it to be, a discussion item, but I would just like to point out one thing that I've pointed out before, and Mr. Treeweiler referred to it, and that is PERS. Now, we don't know what's going to happen, but it was not mentioned in this equation. I want to commend Mr. Lawton for his candor in saying that this is a serious but not critical situation. I'm not a financial expert, but we've all read the reports. I mentioned to the council the last time I was here about the article written by Dan Walters, a noted authority, who's been writing about California politics for 40 years. And he says it's imminent that PERS is going to come in with assessments. Now, there's a game called Jenga. I'm not very good at it. It's a stack of sticks, and you keep pulling out sticks, and then finally you pull out one stick, and the whole thing falls down. Now, in my opinion, PERS is that stick. This council has been pulling out sticks since you adopted the budget, and it's not critical. And as Mr. Lawton pointed out, there's certain things that are outside your control, but I would just implore you to do everything you can to find out what is on the horizon with regard to PERS, because as you know, the city of Stockton went bankrupt, and their PERS payments were dropped drastically. The city of Atwater is now in a watch position. That article was in the Modesto Bee yesterday. So any delusion that we have as a community that we are immune to these forces of economics would be seriously misguided. So that's the point I'd like to make. Please factor in what might happen if PERS sends us that assessment letter. It could be catastrophic. Thank you.
Yes.
And Mayor, I'd just like to make one additional comment. All of these perspectives and truths may in fact be accurate, but I'd just like to cite that in the course of one conversation, we've gone from a 2016-17 review to a 2018-19 reality. The facts are that as we have attempted to make appropriate decisions with respect to both firefighters and police officers and other staff members, we have done our utmost and walked a very fine line with respect to what's possible, what's desired, what's not, what can we do, what should we do, how many we're going to lose, how we're going to respond to our constituents who say, we want more protection. We want more presence in the streets. How do we respond to the fact that we've got all of these quote-unquote competing demands? And walking that fine line is a very delicate dance. This is not something that's been done willy-nilly, but I think to place it in the context of comparing 2 years and advancing from a year ago to a year from now is just a bit, at least we know we're doing that. That's not to discredit Mr. Bates, that's not to discredit Mr. Treeweiler, nor my colleagues on the council, excuse me. But I think that we need to keep that in perspective. Let's not lose our cool. The reason they call it a rainy day fund is because it's a rainy day fund, and folks, the clouds have been brewing for a long time. So here we are. I'm not saying continue to spend, I'm saying let's figure out what it is we're buying. I think Mr. Lutt made a point of that. What is it we're buying, not what is it we're spending? And the commodity that was absolutely essential was firefighters, fire trucks, police gear, training, competitive salaries, et cetera, et cetera. It's not been a willy-nilly decision. This has not been an overnight situation. We're comparing a year ago to a year from now. Let's just keep those things in mind.
Okay. Any additional comments or questions? Yes.
I noticed the handouts went to the council right before this discussion started. I noticed the council, they're looking at the pages, going through them as if they just saw them. Is that the fact? Have they seen them before? Have they gone through these already? Or is this the first time you've seen these papers that you're getting presented with now?
This is the first time that it's PowerPoint, but we know these numbers. We've been going over them for quite a few months.
You've seen
now.
all of this before?
Yes, because
So
we approved all of this.
is the count, because of the way you were looking at them, and I watched you as she was talking, it appeared that you weren't familiar with all the numbers. And I don't think it's fair for the council to make a decision tonight on papers that they've seen for 10 minutes. It has to be tough. And this is a lot of money. And also, one other thing is the city clerk made a comment a while ago when you were voting on the $4,000 that you were going to spend for a trip. She said it had been budgeted. And I believe that might have gone on the decision to approve it because it was in the budget. Those type of things, and whatever it was, as we look at the budget, and it's only $4,000 compared to millions, but watching those type of things is what we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional comments or questions? All right, bring it back to the council. Additional comments or questions? Yes, Councilmember Black.
So I wasn't in favor of a lot of budgeting decisions that we've made. Obviously, I've been the outlier of the voting. I've experienced, and no one else up here has experienced, the layoffs. And it's horrific to watch families and people have to move and try and find other jobs or work within the confines of only one person providing for the whole family. So that's why I bring up other items such as travel. It sounds simple, but there's necessities and then there's wants. And these aren't necessities. We can get anything we want online pretty quickly. And none of the things that we'll learn in our travel are gonna help us. And there are so many other little things that Mr. Lawson are gonna find that we can try and recover. We've known for a while, Mr. Franzen, that we don't have enough money, that we're spending down in a good economy into our reserves. And I'm concerned, I'm gravely concerned, because I do not want to be the person having to sit up here again and lay people off. And it's frightening to me that we're just acting like, well, it's okay. It's not okay. It's not our money, and we have to be very fiscally minded.
Did you want to go through the stuff you didn't approve, so we know?
It's not necessary.
Okay, I'm just wondering, because I guess it goes back to the point that we're spending this money on additional police officers, we're spending this money on additional firefighters, we're spending this money on an age-old, 10-plus year, aged-out radio system. We're spending this on making sure that our police officers feel their pay is competitive so that they stay here, so we retain those because it is so difficult to bring them in and keep them here. So again, this is not done frivolously, this is not done overnight. These are numbers in this PowerPoint physically handed to us tonight. Yes, just right now. These are numbers we've been going over for months because we've been going through negotiations every night. You'll see on council chambers or council agendas where we go through agendas because we're going through labor negotiations. And so we factor that in, and we factor in that our staff have been doing more with less, and that they've been at pre-recession levels for a very long time, and that we're now finally getting them to that point, plus trying to make them more competitive so they stay here. So we take these matters very seriously, and I'm glad that this council decided to be fiscally prudent for 3 years, where we built up our reserves from $6.9 to $11 million. So we had the ability to make these decisions for more police officers and firefighters and public safety and all these critical needs. So that's why I think that we're on the right track. I appreciate our staff for making sure our numbers here. City Manager Lawton and the entire council will be exploring revenue options as well. We're looking at sources of revenue going forward that can supplement this going forward. So again, keep on with the conversation, but tonight, by the way, isn't approving any of these expenditures. It's approving the auditor to make sure everything's in compliance. So just a simple difference. So that's what we're looking at. So with that, I'll entertain a motion if anyone has one.
To ask approval of the audit.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember DeHart, seconded by Councilmember Scared. Clerk, please call the roll.
Accepting the City of Turlock's audited financial statements for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2017, and related reports. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soisek.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kelly, and to your entire team for working on
Thank
that audit. Appreciate it. Moving on to final readings. Clerk, can you please read and call the roll?
Amending the zoning map of the City of Turlock, California, attached to Title IX of the Turlock Municipal Code, rezone 2018-01, Plan Development 275 Mission Ranch, as introduced at the July 24th, 2018 City Council meeting. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
No.
Mayor Soisek.
Yes, motion carries 4-1. And then the resolution, we need a motion and a second for that.
So move the resolution.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember DeHart, second, yes, by Councilmember Bublak. Clerk, please call the roll.
Establishing
That's the first
conditions of approval for Plan Development Number 275, PD 275, rezone 2018-01 Mission Ranch. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
No.
Mayor Soisek.
Yes, motion carries 4-1. Item B, clerk.
Amending Turlock Municipal Code Title 6, Chapter 3, Article 1, Section 01, regarding collection charges for garbage, rubbish, and organic refuse as related to commercial box services, as introduced at the July 24th, 2018 City Council meeting. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soisek.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. Moving on to public hearings, a request to amend Turlock Municipal Code regarding the removal of any personal property unlawfully stored or found in a city park, any street, or any public parking lot or public area, improved or unimproved. Fire Marshal Gomez.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you today tonight is the ordinance change, going from 7 days down to 1 day, 24 hours. Staff has been working on this very hard with intern city attorney, and we came up with the conclusion that 24 hours would be a tool for staff to deal with items left in the public way. And there's a couple options also in that if you choose not to go with the 24 hours. But I'd like to answer any questions if you have any.
All right, any questions or comments for Fire Marshal Gomez? Yes, Councilmember DeHart.
Thanks, Fire Marshal. I just got a quick question. It seemed to me to be fairly drastic to go from 7 to 1, from 7 days to 1 day. And I'm just trying to get, obviously there's other options. Thank you for those options. But how do we get from 7 to 1?
We visited what other cities and communities have done. And there's a range from 7 days as we are to 5 days, 3 days, and 1. And we felt that the 24-hour would give us a better tool to deal with the blight within our community and help us deal with the quality of life.
Thank you for the answer.
Maybe expand a little bit more about the 7 days and currently when just the process of when you approach or when you find some property. I know there's differences if it's by itself versus if it's someone, but can you talk about currently now and then what will strengthen?
Yeah, currently now it's a 7-day process where we post it and we cannot remove it for 7 days. That creates a challenge for us. I'll give you an example. The other day we had a personal belongings or items that were being stored. And on the 7th day, when we went to remove it after posting it, of course, they moved on, and they took what they wanted and left the remainder. Within that 7 days, it created 3 pickup trucks full of left behind material that we had to, staff had to discard. At another time, we cleaned up 2 other locations with city staff and equipment, 1.2 tons that was left behind. So I think the 24 hours is going to give us a better tool to deal with the problems faster, so that we're not spending our staff time just cleaning up behind folks. And every bit that we pick up, I gotta thank Turlock Scavenger Company for taking, I think last year we did over 100,000 pounds that we delivered to Turlock Scavengers, and that's just staff that we delivered there, and they graciously took it without a cost to neighborhood services. So I really have to thank them for that.
Thanks for the perspective.
Thank you. Yeah, Councilmember Bublak.
Couple questions. So in here, I'm looking through, it doesn't define public. We had a previous conversation about the transit center. So I think we're gonna have some problems if this isn't extremely defined. And I don't know, maybe did the police chief have some input into this?
I don't think yeah, we did not include police chief as part of the decision in this. You're asking for public places?
So there's no definition of, it says any city street, public area, improved, unimproved. There's a lot of different places that could include that might not necessarily. And so I think for the lawyer's standpoint, we probably need a better definition.
Yeah, can you explain that, City Attorney?
Yes, you know, the main question that the amendment changes to this ordinance is simply the notice procedure. It's a question of whether we can go from 7 days to a shorter period. Whatever public areas typically are going to be defined and understood, and judges and courts are going to look to how is this commonly used in other jurisdictions and other places. There could be a transit center one day, new places that are built in the future that may create closer questions as far as what public areas are. We can certainly look at that, look at the ordinance, and any areas that we need to tighten down as far as definitions with new development, et cetera, we can definitely look at. I think the general term that it's used now and the language that has been in the code and that we did not look at it this time around has been public area, and that has been successful for now. That has been, I think, clear enough now based on the common just the common usage of those terms. But I think it raises a good question. We can look at that issue as like I said, there's new development or new issues, and if we think an ordinance amendment needs to change to fine-tune some of that, we certainly can look into that.
So currently, there's no specific definition, like our current ordinance right now doesn't have a definition of public.
Correct.
Okay, so we're just looking at the time frame.
Right.
from
Right
7 to
now, all we
24.
are is looking at a very narrow question of the notice provisions of this ordinance, and it's from 7 days to 24 hours. The balance of it certainly could be looked at for all sorts of issues, including that. But that's the issue that's before us today.
Okay. Yeah, other questions?
Actually, just to kind of talk more about that. I mean, when we're cleaning up something, I would hope that we were cleaning it all up, and I kind of want to caution my colleagues that maybe not having the police chief involved in that, and going ahead and as we discussed a couple weeks ago, the the transit center and certain areas, Greyhound, certain areas we need to have that in here. There's no reason that we should come to the table so many times. We should just clean it up once, is my estimation, but I could be wrong.
I guess I'm a little confused. Are you asking to put every address of property into the definition, or?
So, in the conversation we had previously, as a Modesto police officer, I worked a lot of overtime at the transit center in Modesto.
Okay.
Okay. There, it's just like you were at a train place, or if you're at an airport, you're going to have to be in possession of your goods. If you're not, then that is to be removed, because it's the safety of all the travelers, right?
Okay.
So that's something that, to me, if we're really working on the welfare and then also sanitary and all these items, I think that all should have been collectively put together to make this have a little teeth.
I think we're thinking of a little different aspect of, like airports or train stations. That's a public safety aspect, and I think Chief Amafar spoke about that, where you cannot leave your belongings unattended at an airport. The police officer can actually remove them immediately.
City Attorney, can you?
Right.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. If the concern is public safety, the idea of transit leaving things that are potential threat, we have had before this change, and we will continue to have the right as a city and to exercise this police power to immediately remove any property anywhere, transit center or not, that poses a threat and endangers the life and safety.
And I think additionally, we're gonna have there's gonna be a police officer
At the transit center is what I
So they will have
understand.
that authority currently under this current ordinance.
That's what I understand, correct.
Okay, cool. Additional questions? Did you have, or anybody? All right, additional questions or comments from the audience on this item? Yes, Ms. Francis.
With this amendment, how many are we talking about? How many examples of the 7-day notices and incidences is the city attempting to do right now versus to go to 1 day? Is this
Fire Marshal,
five?
you did a good job of kind of giving that example earlier, or maybe there's others, I don't know.
Yeah, there's really no number of how many we actually intend to do. We address them as they, pose a problem, right? So I think the question was asked to me earlier in the hallway, how many do you do a month? That varies. I mean, it could be 12 to 15, it could be 3. It depends on how many we actually contact and clean up. So for a hard number, we don't have that. Does that answer the question?
I don't know, does,
Yeah, I was just trying to put that into terms, because when also talking about some related issues, whether it's transient people or homeless people, we keep hearing numbers like 250 people, 500, and those are starting to get put down in sort of a proportion to what we're doing. So we close all the parks in the city early, but really it's sort of for issues arising from 250 people. I'm just wondering what all this is about. So if it's about 10, 15 incidences, but if it goes to an extreme number of 1 day, which Councilman DeHart did say is extreme, I think it's extreme too, but if it goes to 1 day, how many more incidences is expected? Because it sounds like right now, if we're talking 10 a month, so one every few days, and it sounds like some pretty big sites maybe. I don't know if this is considered people like making encampments. I don't know where these examples are, but if it's 1 day, are we talking about people's stuff they're toting around? Is that going to increase? Is that what the objective is? Or is it just to address these 10 sites and actually follow through on it? I guess that's what I'm looking at.
I think that the summary that really caught my attention was the 100,000 pounds a year. That's what really got my attention. That's a lot of stuff.
That's a lot of stuff, you're right.
That's not a couch sitting out on a driveway 10 times a month.
Correct.
That's multiple couches on a driveway. That's cars. That's old beat-up washing machines and so on and so forth that are sitting out on street corners throughout our neighborhoods. That's the type of trash we're talking about. That's 100,000 pounds, a lot of weight, and I think Mr. Marchant might have some vision on that as well. But I think, that's a lot of stuff. 50 tons of stuff.
Yeah, and to kind of speak on what Mr. Francis is speaking about on how many times maybe is, you go from 7 days where they can accumulate to 1 day where they carry it with them. I think it might decrease the number of removals because they're going to keep, their items with them. We do it every 90 days, right? We store it for 90 days, up to 90 days, so they can reclaim it. So it's a cycle that we continue. It's 30, 60, 90, and we hold these in different spots so that we know what's 30, what's 60, what's 90. And on the 90th day, or 91st, if you want to put it, I order a dumpster from Turlock Scavengers to come out, and we load them up, and sometimes it'll be a 15-yard, and I'm not sure the size. I know the size of the dumpster's 8 foot wide, 4 foot tall, 12 feet long for a 15-yard. I worked for Allen for 20 years, that's why I kind of know that. But so imagine that size of box on the 91st day where I order, and he drops it, his staff drops it off, we load it up, and sometimes it's over the top of the edge, and sometimes I got to order a 20-yard dumpster to deal with this stuff. So it just gives you a perspective on how much we do right now in a 7-day period. So we're just trying to use a tool.
Okay, perfect. Additional comments or questions? Or yes, Councilmember Scarra and then Christian. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just looking at the ordinance, I would think that would be easier because the public in general out there, I don't think wants to see this stuff sitting around for 7 days.
Right.
So I can see where going to 24 hours, you have a better handle on
Sure,
this,
yeah,
and it's moving. So that's the way I saw this. So
Yeah, Ms. Kirby.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I just happen to work in a career field where we have to deal with a lot of this kind of stuff, and I would say, in response, I thought Mr. Franson's question was really good, and I kind of want to respond to it because I think it's not really so much about just the particular incidents about how many times we or the city, I guess, receives a call about property in the street, and about the folks that are actually losing that property or have left their property stored in public right-of-way. It's also about folks that live in the neighborhood that are that surrounds the place where I work at the Turlock Gospel Mission. And I would say, I say it semi-facetiously, but I would say I'm probably not the favorite guy on the block down there. And it's not because of anything I do, but it's because of issues like this. I get calls and visits almost weekly from a neighbor saying, hey, somebody left something in the alley behind my house, or somebody left some garbage in front of our driveway, or et cetera, et cetera. And I think that, we spend a lot of time on the phone with neighborhood services, and they're doing a great job. But I think one of the challenges that neighborhood services faces, and certainly we do as well, is this ordinance, or this part of the municipal code saying that 7 days notice has to be given. And I've even seen a pile of stuff, 7 days goes by, and then it gets moved 15 yards or whatever, and then it gets left for another 7 days. So I just think if for no other reason to make me more popular in my neighborhood down the street, I think this is a good idea.
Okay, thank you. Additional comments? Yes, Chief, you don't have to raise your hand. Come on.
I'm sorry, Mark. I just wanted to jump in. I think there needs to be a little bit of history because there's a lot of newer people here. So it's correct, I was not a part of this portion of it, but if you go back over about a year and a half ago, I was involved with City Attorney Phaedra Norton at the time regarding our 7-day policy for the property removal. It's a process. Fresno was sued several years ago of $2.6 million, and the attorneys know it, and it was due to the processes that weren't covered. And out of that lawsuit came a 72-hour ruling, where processes had to come in play regarding property that was left unattended or discarded. I requested us to go to that 72-hour at the time of my involvement. I'm not involved in this portion of it, but I am in support of this portion of it. Fire Marshal Gomez is exactly right. In regards to property left in public areas unattended, 24 hours is sufficient. There are numerous municipalities doing this. I've been in touch with Anaheim for the last 2 years. Anaheim has a very robust program in assisting our individuals who are homeless, and part of it is this property recovery process. So I just wanted to make it clear that this is a process. This allows us to remove property that is left in places, public places, and definition is in the court systems. And when you look at trial court and so forth, they identify public property as those areas that are shared. Property left on homes or encroachments to homes or businesses is not public. Spaces that are monitored by municipalities, such as bus transits, those areas might be open to the general public. You don't have an expectancy of privacy, but there is requirements that you follow processes. Councilmember Blueback is exactly right in regards to the transport or transit circumstances and situations there. We are working with Transit Police Department. Captain Pacheco is working with Wayne in Transit to build a complete new ordinance to be very specific as to those discussions, because she is exactly right. When anything is left in areas for transportation, planes, trains, etc., must not be left unattended. So those ordinances are being worked on separately from this, and we will cover it. As for the transit officer, it has been funded, but we will not be staffing it because we are going to staff our patrol needs first. That's my #1 priority. So transit will be working on using the funding that they have in place, and I don't want to speak for Wayne because he's not here, but this is a process we're working on, and it'll be security personnel will be there until I can get officers hired to fulfill my requirements to this community under our patrol staffing first. Then the other 2 officers will come on. My neighborhood resource officer is a priority for me, and that's what's going to come on first after I do patrol. It will happen. It's going to happen. But it's going to take some time. So hopefully I explained it, but the process is a 24-hour. Fire Marshal Gomez is exactly right. It's a tool that we can utilize for people that are leaving discarded property in the public right-of-ways for us to be able to remove within 24 hours. And there's processes in removing them also. So I won't go into the receipts and all that stuff. But
Thanks, Chief. City Attorney, did you have something? I'm used to seeing the hand go towards the microphone.
Yeah. I think the police chief is right. We looked at the issue of 24 hours versus 72 hours very closely. I'll save a lot of people that don't want to be bored to tears. But in the last 10 years, there's been the legal principle that's been lifted from federal courts and California courts in California is looking at Fourth Amendment due process, what is adequate notice. And in the last few years, a lot of jurisdictions have been switching to 24 hours. There's been a Northern District case that has upheld 24 hours. And in fact, a recent court, Judge David Carter in Southern California, actually one of his provisional remedies in the case was to require the jurisdiction to provide 24-hour notices. So obviously in the area of law, it's always evolving, but I think there's good legal authority for 24 hours.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I just want to make one other comment. I don't want to get, for the public not to get confused, is we still have an ordinance regarding storing your personal property in the public way, parks, city lots, anything like that. So they can still get a citation for doing that under the ordinance, but we have to post it for 24 hours before we can actually remove it. So I don't want to, they tend to think that 7 day gives them the right to stay there. No, okay?
Thank you. Yeah, no, good clarification. Additional, yes, Molly. Reading body language around here, trying to figure out who wants to come up.
I just kind of wanted to piggyback off what Christian was saying about the neighbors around the gospel mission and kind of the stuff that they have to deal with this. And I just urge everyone to think about if you owned a business downtown and for 7 days you had a huge pile on Main Street on a bench you know, just right outside of your doorway where private property is no longer pertains, and it has to stay there for 7 days. So that's something that we're definitely dealing with downtown, so I think this is great. And I just had one question. Is it complaint driven, or is it like you?
Great
like
question, actually.
Yeah, good question. We are actually proactively dealing with the process. Yeah, we don't wait for the complaint to come in again. We wait for the complaint to come in, it may be 5, 7, 10 days, and it's out of control, so
But
we're
those that-
actively.
Those that maybe you don't see it, they can call the non-emergency.
Absolutely.
So 668-1200.
But they can actually call
Or-
neighborhood services,
Okay, perfect.
and I don't know the number,
don't
because I
do
got
that.
it
That's
plugged
what
in
I
my
say.
phone. I just find neighborhood
I looked at you.
services.
Push the button.
Yeah.
Anyhow, good. Additional comments or questions on this item? All right, bring it back to council. Additional comments, questions? Yes, Councilmember Bublak.
So I'm not opposed to the whole concept. I'm always looking for the loophole, right? How are they gonna participate in this? So used to be, you could mark a car that hadn't moved, and you could look at the odometer. Well, now you can't read those. So is there are you making sure that you know it didn't get moved a foot, and that will nullify it? I mean, have you
Yeah,
taken all this into care?
Good question, because we actually photograph and document every piece of property, or not every piece, every location that we deal with. We'll photograph it 2, 3 sides so that we can identify it, and then the location as well. So if they moved it 15 feet, we can actually go back and look at the pictures and identify the property, and then we know it's the same property. Is that what you're asking?
I am, but nowhere in here did I read that it had, if it was within 15 feet of where it was before, that, you know, in my mind, if I'm gonna be the person that wants to leave it there, then I'm gonna say I moved it 15 feet. So
Yeah,
why are you taking my stuff?
Good question, because I was, I guess, being the Grinch. Because other communities actually have the statement where if you have your personal property or property, and we post it, and if we find it again within 30 days within the city limits, that same 24 hours accounts for the time that we find it again. I was asked not to
So
be
I'll
that
weigh
mean.
into this because I threw it out there, but then the attorney needs to weigh into it, is that's exactly it. You know, it's frustrating to see people move it from one side of the park to the other, and that's something that we talked about. But also in going through this process, I know that staff made sure that we were legally on sound footing, and,
Right.
and I know that we're defensible in 24 hours, but City Attorney, you want to talk to this second point?
Yeah, I think based on the feedback from staff, and the idea was this may be a very good tool as is to implement that for further evaluation. Some jurisdictions do have language in these ordinances that say if the property is relocated, the notice that's given will be effective for property relocated or reshuffled within the city. That requires a much more delicate legal balancing act, and I think that this tool is a good first step into that. See what kind of results we have. If staff, the feedback from staff is we could do more, or we would like to recommend doing more, we could do that. But it requires a balancing act of various legal and constitutional issues.
Ultimately, what we're asking as city staff is to voluntary compliance. If we ask you to remove your property, if we post your property, we're just asking you to remove it from the public way. And then, we deal with it as we have to. Now, again, if they move it from point A in the park to point B in the same park, they're still in the same park, and we can actually cite them twice for storing their property in the park. We don't want to continually cite people. We just want them to comply, voluntary comply.
And so for the record, I like your style, where you're going with this, Councilmember Bublak. Yeah, so if we need to strengthen, I think we bring that back later and see how this works. I agree with you. Any other council comments or questions? Or what's the pleasure of the council on this?
Introduce ordinance?
Second. All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Buvak and seconded by Councilmember Dehart. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Introducing an ordinance amending Turlock Municipal Code Title 5, Chapter 20, Articles 3 and 4, regarding the removal of any personal property unlawfully stored or found in a city park, any street, or any public parking lot or public area, improved or unimproved, and setting the final reading date for September 11th, 2018. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Swaysad.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. Thanks so much to the attorney's office and city manager's office and everyone else who worked on this. Appreciate it. All right, moving on to item 8A, request to approve the agreement between the city of Turlock and Turlock Gospel Mission for outreach, navigation, and diversion program services. Who's singing the song? Oh,
Yeah,
our attorney's singing off.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Again, I'm Frank Splendorio from the city's attorney's office and here to present item 8A regarding a new agreement with the Turlock Gospel Mission for outreach, navigation, and diversion program services. Just before I get into some of the key features of this proposed new agreement, I'd like to give just a quick background. As you know, in 2016, the city partnered with the Turlock Gospel Mission and launched its pilot diversion program, intended to leverage the Gospel Mission's case management services by allowing individuals to perform community service and receive valuable case management services in lieu of being prosecuted for violation of city municipal codes. It was really a way to not just run individuals through the criminal court system if we felt we could connect them to needed services, and the Gospel Mission was a willing partner on that. Upon successful completion of that program, the agreement would be that they would then have their cases dismissed. After the 6-month pilot program ended, the city extended the diversion program for another year with 3 one-year options to extend for approximately $36,000 per year. The Gospel Mission has continued to provide case management services to qualified individuals or individuals referred by the court under that program. While it has been effective for those it has served, the reach of the program has been somewhat limited because it has only been able to serve individuals who show up to court after being criminally cited. In other words, staff has seen an increased opportunity to leverage the Gospel Mission's case management services outside of the 4 walls of the courthouse, so to speak, and to take those services into the community to ensure a wider audience is reached. To that end, over the last few months, our office has been in negotiations with the Gospel Mission to see if it could increase its scope of work to include a navigation and outreach services component, which I'll explain in a minute. In effect, to take a more proactive and not just reactive approach. Other California cities and counties have started utilizing similar what's sometimes called street-level case management services or homeless outreach teams or downtown street teams to meet individuals where they are, help them identify barriers, and connect them with much-needed services to help them transition into long-term solutions. Based on these negotiations and also meetings with staff, including the police chief, Fire Marshal Gomez, and Marin Pitt from Housing, we submit this agreement for council approval. Some of the key features I'd like to highlight, again, are as follows. The first one is the navigation. Under this agreement, the Gospel Mission will assign a city-dedicated 30-hour-per-week navigator to proactively reach out to homeless and those at risk of homelessness in the city. The navigator will provide these street-level or ground-level case management services to a minimum of 30 individuals weekly, including follow-up to help identify barriers, connect them with the social services, and transition them into long-term housing, employment, and find other positive solutions and services. In effect, the Gospel Mission will be able to take what they do now every day inside their building and proactively initiate helpful and appropriate services to individuals in need in the field without having to wait for a referral by the court as it is now in the diversion program. They have also agreed to provide training and oversight to this dedicated navigator for a minimum of 4 hours per week. Briefly, some of the other key components of this agreement, which have been significantly updated and expanded. The contract gives explicit details and goals concerning the advocacy role the gospel mission will play in helping the homeless. It'll help them transition to housing through all available housing providers, public or private. It'll include driving individuals on their golf cart or other vehicles to housing or employment appointments, helping them complete background checks, get Cal ID cards, and find other appropriate services. They've also agreed, speaking of storage of personal property, they've also agreed to continue to have a discussion with the city about, for obviously it would have to be agendized as future council action as far as helping run, explore, develop, and potentially administer storing of property of the affected individuals. They've also agreed to keep individual assessment plans so it can ensure it can provide better, timely, and helpful case management services to the community based on need, progress, barriers, and outcome goals. And then the last component, which I think is important, and I think the last agreement there was an opportunity for greater clarity. To ensure accountability and transparency, the Gospel Mission will also provide, they'll submit an invoice every month showing aggregated data of how many people they've served in the past 30 days and highlight key outcomes of individuals served by the program so the city can get immediate feedback constantly about the fruit of this partnership. They will also coordinate with the city representative regarding the assigned navigator schedule to make sure the city knows where the navigator is and if the navigator is working at particular times. In addition to all of these kind of revamped and rescoped services, the Gospel Mission will continue to provide the same diversion program services on behalf of the city that has provided since 2016. The new agreement is slotted for $47,000 annually, which is up approximately $11,000 from the previous contract. But I think in light of the additional scope of works, the value of a nearly full-time city dedicated navigator who will be providing street-level case management services and incidentally be available to the community and to the city staff who can be reached from a number of sources. We believe this is an excellent opportunity and one that the Gospel Mission is willing to accept because of its own commitment and desire to serve the city. We have Christian Kirby here, as you know, from the Executive Director of Turlock Gospel Mission, and the navigator that would be assigned to this contract, Bernardo Fernandez Garcia, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thanks.
Hey, do you want to dive in, or do you have a question? Oh, Councilmember DeHart's right out the gate.
Just real quick to understand the scope, Attorney, I think one of the weaknesses of the program in the past has been that of transportation from Turlock to Modesto and back. It seems to me that we had folks that had an issue in court in Modesto, and they had nowhere to get there. And so there was default in terms of appearing, and then the problems became greater. I understood you talking about driving around on a cart, but you're not going to drive a cart to Modesto.
Yeah. I know they have a golf cart that they would use for a little, obviously local transportation here and there. The agreement provides that, you know, their services, providing these street level management services, kind of like a utility blade. They're going to be flexible, be able to, if there's a need to drive into a housing appointment, to a court appointment, other things that they've agreed to do that. And so I don't anticipate that that's going to be a problem. I think the emphasis of this agreement as opposed to the previous agreement is really the navigation street level case management. So getting to court, I don't think is going to be as predominant an emphasis as it was under the previous contract.
And certainly not if we're attempting to keep them out of the courts.
Exactly.
But I think that initial visit to the court is what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
And what did tend to compound the problems in the past. So that's.
Yeah, I mean, getting them to court is still going to be difficult because they have to come to us or come to them or be on somebody's radar. That's why the case management services are helpful at the street level because it helps us to meet them where they are.
Mr. Kirby.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, City Council members. Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think we do provide a lot of transportation to Modesto and other cities for things like housing appointments, social service appointments, including the Social Security Administration, doctor's appointments, that kind of thing. And we certainly talk to the city attorney's office, as well as other members of city staff about this issue. And we're certainly willing to jump in and try to help as much as we can. I mean, certainly we have, staffing and financial limitations, but we certainly realize that for anybody that we're in relationship with and we have an ongoing working relationship with, that transportation to the courthouse is the same as it would be to the Social Security Administration or anywhere else.
Thanks. Do you want to jump into your regular, anything else?
I don't. I mean, I think Frank, the city attorney, expressed it really well. I mean, we've enjoyed a really great relationship through the pilot project with the city, and we've seen some really great outcomes. We've seen some folks that have gone through diversion, and this is not, certainly not the regular case, but we've seen some folks move out of homelessness, currently employed, currently working, and just really enjoying a level of success that I think, we believe always existed, but I think many of them are experiencing something that they didn't think was possible. And I think that the new scope of work, and again, I want to thank the city attorney's office. I want to thank Marin Pitt for all the hard work that she's put into this as well. But I think the new scope of work really aims at not just, as Frank said, not just waiting for folks to be referred to us, but really going out and engaging people where they're at. And again, I think that this is not solely aimed at serving homeless people. It's also aimed at serving the rest of our community. It's aimed at business owners and homeowners, everybody that lives in the city. Anyway, I don't really have much to say other than thanks for all the hard work and getting this scope to this point, and I'm looking forward to continuing our partnership with the city.
No, there's the partnership between the city of Turlock and the Turlock Gospel Mission is very strong, and it's something that we're very proud of to be working with you all, and you guys do a great job, and I think this can be even better to serve the community, like you said. Bernardo, though, I got a chance to run into you when you were here talking to the attorney's office, and I was really impressed with you, and I just wanted you to kind of share a little bit about who you are and why you want to do this.
Well, my name is Bernardo Garcia. I'm a U.S. Marine Corps veteran.
Yeah.
I have
this guy. Yeah.
seen a lot of brothers in arms who struggle with PTSD. I personally have been diagnosed with PTSD since I got out back in 2011, late November. Seeing my fellow veterans out there struggling and other homeless individuals who are struggling with PTSD, anxieties, of being afraid of the public, as well as the public being uncomfortable with their presence, has sparked something inside of me. As a veteran, I really didn't have to work, but I just felt like I couldn't just stay home. I've told my wife I have to get back into my community and provide something other than just being a veteran who sits at home. And I felt what better place than the gospel mission to be able to serve the community while helping out fellow veterans, and like Christian Kirby had mentioned, helping out the companies and the businesses to clean up the area a little bit more, which goes along with what the Marshal had mentioned in regards to keeping the streets cleaner. So I mean, as a citizen of Turlock, as a U.S. Marine Corps veteran, I just feel like this is a great opportunity to be able to provide to the community, and having the skill sets that I have as a minister with my church, it just allows me that understanding of how to speak to people at their level and know that they are struggling with stuff that other people may not understand or comprehend.
Could you imagine being lost or lonely or needing assistance, and Bernardo is the one that comes and talks to you? So thank you so much for what you're doing in advance. This is awesome, and I'm really proud that you're in this community. You'll be servicing this community. So thank you so much. I'll give you a round of applause for that. Thank you. any question or comments? Yes, Mr. Truweiler, then Molly, and then whoever else.
Again, Milt Treeweiler. This sounds to me like a very excellent program, but I do have one question. And that question is, will this service be provided to all people, including LGBT people or individuals, and also people of all religious beliefs, regardless if they're Jewish, Muslim, Christian, any faith? That's my question. Thank you.
Mr. Kirby, you want to take that?
Yeah, I do. Great question. Thank you, sir, for asking it. I answer this kind of question all the time, both to funders, volunteers, folks that come and say, hey, so this is Turlock Gospel Mission. The gospel seems to indicate that it's a Christian organization, which in fact it is. But I like to say this a lot because I think this is really true. So the gospel in the name, Turlock Gospel Mission, really sort of indicates the motivation for why we do the work that we do, not sort of a qualification for its recipients. So absolutely, we're here to serve this community far and wide. Interestingly, and I really wanted to stand up earlier when we were recognizing the Church of Latter-day Saints and the CrossFit Parabellum, is that right?
Yep.
The gentleman that they helped happens to be a volunteer at the Turlock Gospel Mission. He comes once a month and along with some friends and family and feeds a meal. The LDS Church comes and serves at the Turlock Gospel Mission meals. And so we have a sense that we're here to serve anybody in our community. And again, the fact that we are a Christian organization really speaks to the motivation for why we serve.
Thank you so much. Molly.
So I just wanted to say that when I heard about this yesterday, I could not be personally more excited about this whole program. I do have a couple questions just because I have some thoughts for kind of a little bit of a spin-off to work with Bernardo. So I'm just wondering, what are the qualifications, like for case management? Like what would qualify you to be able to manage cases and things like that? And then also, like what the routine would be. Like when you get there in the morning, are you just gonna hit the ground running? Are you gonna be going and looking for places that you see a large concentration of people, or is there gonna be, like, how is that gonna work? Kind of an inside peek, if you could.
So those are great questions, Molly, and I think that they're just broad enough, you know? So, I mean, I think to answer your first question, which now I'm going to struggle to remember. Locations? Qualifications, okay. So qualifications, I would say, certainly a qualification for a case manager might be an MSW. But in this case, what we're really talking about here is homeless navigation. We're talking about a person that has the sort of qualities that would allow him or her to walk into a place that is often scary to most of us. Places that, like encampments, places where people may be using drugs or may be hidden from view in tents or in boxes, whatever that may be. And so, I would say that's a first qualification, is that somebody that is confident enough to walk into a place that many people wouldn't want to walk into and start conversations. And so that's the second qualification that we certainly took into consideration as we did our hiring, was somebody that also came with a lot of compassion, because even though we recognize that there are some issues in our community, some nuisance issues and some crime issues, et cetera, we also recognize that by and large, the people that we're talking about are citizens of this city, or residents of this city. And so just like anybody else, we want to take really great care of them. And so we wanted somebody who was courageous, but also really compassionate, somebody who really understood some of the barriers that the folks that we're going to be reaching out to face. That was another sort of hiring point. So in this particular case, Bernardo has spent some time working for Prodigal Sons and Daughters as working in peer support, case management, and leading drug recovery groups. And so that's another really critical component. You know, as far as the day-to-day sort of task of case management, really what we're trying to do, and case management is not counseling. What it is it's accumulating data, so taking in data, analyzing the data, and creating a plan. And so what Bernardo's job really looks like is he's going to have a conversation with somebody. He's going to begin to try to understand what the barriers are that they're facing. He's going to analyze that data, and he's going to create a plan that includes a bunch of goals. That some of the goals are going to be for him, but most of the goals are going to be for the folks that he's engaged with. And we're going to, and so a big part of a case manager's job is to hold people accountable to those goals. So if we meet today and you tell me you need a place to live, and we talk about 6 places that you can go and talk to them about a place to live, the next time I see you, the first question I'm going to ask you is, how many phone calls did you make? How many housing providers did you visit? And if you say none, then we're going to have a conversation about that. If you say 2 or 3, then we're going to talk about what the results were. So I hope that answers it. Okay.
And I just wanted to say that, Bernardo, I'm super excited for you, and I can't wait to work with you, so.
Absolutely. Any other additional comments or questions? All right, seeing none, bring it back to the council. Yes, Councilmember Bublak.
So, it says here it doesn't start till September 1st?
So that's the date of the contract, the beginning of the contract, but actually, Bernardo started his job yesterday. He gave 2 weeks' notice 2 weeks ago. So, you know, we've been working on this for several months along with city staff, and so Bernardo's actually on board. We're doing some training. In fact, he did some intakes this morning, and so we intend probably next week to begin visiting businesses both in the downtown core and along Gear and Lander, and begin to give out cards and Bernardo introduced this new service. So we're starting sooner than September 1, but that's when you're going to start paying us, hopefully.
Excellent. So, as well, just a comment. I know we went without it for a year or more, and obviously the diversion plan worked. And so we saw an uptick of issues since we weren't having this partnership. And I'm just so glad that you would come back to the table and engage again to get this going, and actually to add some other aspects to make it really sound like it's going to be a success. Thank you.
Thank you.
Additional comments or questions? Or what's the pleasure of the council on this?
Second.
Both of them? All right, perfect. So we have a motion by Vice Mayor Jacob, seconded by Councilmember Bublak for both the motion and resolution. Clerk, please call the roll.
Approving the agreement between the City of Turlock and Turlock Gospel Mission for outreach, navigation, and diversion program services in an annual amount not to exceed $47,000 from account number 120-10120-43201 diversion program for the period covering September 1, 2018 through August 30th, 2019, with 3 one-year options to extend the term of the agreement in a form approved by the interim city attorney. Appropriating $17,000 to account number 120-10120-43201 diversion program from Fund 120 Tourism, unallocated reserves to fund and support the additional services associated with the outreach, navigation, and diversion program services. Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soisa?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all your hard work. Thank you to the attorney's office. And then just to the public, know that these are all different solutions that are not perfect. We're going to continue to weigh whether they're working and what needs to be changed, which is also part of the reason why this council is still going to participate in all the subcommittees that I was speaking to Molly today about. We're going to be signing up to make sure that we just don't have more than 2 people on per subcommittee, but to weigh what's working, what needs to come to council for future consideration. So Bernardo, we have full faith in you. We think that you're going to do a great job. Christian, the Turlock Gospel Mission, we love our partnership, and we know it'll continue. So thank you so much. All right, item B, requested term the closure for Turlock High School to host the Turlock High School Homecoming Parade is exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act and approve a special event permit application. Amber Train.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me. On June 14th, Parks, Recreation, and Public Facilities received a special event application from Turlock High School to host the annual Turlock High School Homecoming Parade. This application was accompanied by a street request for, as shown on the map, Eastbound East Canal Drive between Main Street and Johnson, East Main Street between East Canal Drive and Center Street, Center Street between East Main and Crane Avenue, and Crane Avenue between Center Street and Minaret, and Minaret between Crane Avenue and East Main Street for September 28th. Historically, this event has used a soft closure, hard closure approach. However, based on the recommendation that we've most recently received from RMA, as well as recommendation from Public Safety, based on the nature of this event, the youth that are involved, the pedestrians lining the streets to watch the parade, it has been recommended that the entire route now be a hard closure. Staff will do their due diligence to minimize the time as soon as the parade route is clear to lift those closures. However, the closure time request frame is 1:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. City of Turlock Traffic Engineering has reviewed the application. City of Turlock Special Event Committee has also reviewed. And property owners directly affected by this closure have been notified of this evening's public hearing. There was extra mention that the route will now be a hard closure instead of how it has historically been done within that public notification. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Trainee? How about from the audience? Bringing it back. What's the pleasure of the council?
I just want to say, thanks for the map.
You got it.
I saw that and I go.
She's listening.
She gave us a map. I like it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any additional comments or questions? Now, what's the pleasure? Taking them separately. All right, do I have a second?
Second.
There we go. Motion by Vice Mayor Jacobs, seconded by Councilmember Scare. Clerk, please call the roll.
Determining the closure of East Canal Drive, eastbound between Main Street and Johnson Road, East Main Street between East Canal Drive and Center Street, Center Street between East Main Street and Crane Avenue, Crane Avenue between Center Street and Minaret Avenue, and Minaret Avenue between Crane Avenue and East Main Street for Turlock High School to host the Turlock High School Homecoming Parade is exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, in accordance with Section 15304, minor alterations to land of the CEQA guidelines. Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dihar?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak? Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soisa?
Yes, motion carries 4-0. And what's the pleasure of the second resolution?
Pass the second.
Do I have a second? Second. All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Dehart, seconded by Councilmember Scare. Clerk, please call the roll.
Approving a special event permit application for the Turlock High School Homecoming Parade hosted by Turlock High School, authorizing the associated closure of portions of East Canal Drive, eastbound between Main Street and Johnson Road, East Main Street between East Canal Drive and Center Street, Center Street between East Main Street and Crane Avenue, Crane Avenue between Center Street and Minaret Avenue, and Minaret Avenue between Crane Avenue and East Main Street for pedestrian safety on Friday, September 28, 2018, from 1:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m., and authorizing the city manager to apply appropriate conditions and restrictions on the street closure. Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Attorney, is that allowed from the hallway? Let's wait for it until you're at the dais.
Yes.
City Attorney, are you not comfortable with that?
Well, I mean,
Would you like me to read it again?
Bathroom? Oh my gosh.
City Attorney, seriously.
I mean, I think as long as she understands the resolution and
Do you understand the resolution?
I understood, and I heard it very loud out there.
All right, thank you. So if you feel comfortable, Attorney?
Yes.
All right.
So Councilmember Bublak, I have a yes.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soisa?
Yes, motion carries 5-0, including the city attorney saying yes on his microphone. Thank you. All right, thank you so much, Amber. But I think you're up next. Request to adopt a new resolution approving updates and modifications to the City of Turlock Active Military Banner Program. What's going on?
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me speak on these proposed updates to the City of Turlock Active Military Banner Program. The City of Turlock Active Military Banner Program was first adopted on September 12th of last year. The inaugural banner term was identified to be the week of Veterans Day 2017 to the week of Veterans Day 2018. And it was also identified that Countryside Drive between Folkerth Road and Monte Vista Avenue would be the designated corridor for the banners. Since the installation of the first 20 banners, last November, the city has received tremendous appreciation from the community. Almost immediately upon those banners being installed, we started getting questions and applications in for the 1819 banner term. Other municipalities have reached out to us because of the well-known and just notoriety it's received throughout other communities, and overall the feedback has just been extremely positive. As with any program that we want to grow and make stronger, we have received some feedback from the community. This feedback we've taken to our Veterans Committee meetings and kind of discussed things and gotten their feedback on it as well. So these are just some updates within that program that staff as well as community members have recommended. The current guidelines state that service members or the applicant who must be an immediate family member of the service member must be a Turlock resident. Over this past year, through receiving applications, it has been brought to staff's attention that service members may be very active in the community. They might be part of service organizations. They may have graduated from high school, graduated from college, maybe lived here their entire life, went and joined the military, and their parents moved out of the city limits to Denair, to Hilmar, to places that still come, do their shopping, and are very active within our community. Those are the resident or the community members that we're hearing from that they would like to be honored. They feel that they're a part of Turlock, even though they don't live within those city limits. It's based on that and the recommendations from the Veterans Committee, staff is recommending that the scope of who can be honored be extended to unincorporated towns which border Turlock city limits. So this would include Crow's Landing, Hilmar, Keys, Delhi, Balico, and Denair. Moving on to the next update. This isn't something that thankfully needs to be addressed often, but staff does feel like it does need to be part of the policy, is fallen soldiers who would otherwise apply for within the scope of the application for the program. So this would be if a fallen soldier's banner is being displayed as an active military banner with family's approval, that banner, active military banner would be removed and a fallen soldier banner would be put up in its place. Again, that would be through a process of family approval with their acceptance of where it will be placed and so on. If the fallen military member's banner is not being displayed, again, through family approval, staff will reach out to the family members and see if it would be something that they would like. That banner will then be put in any available location on that same corridor. In both cases, the fallen soldier banner will resemble the active military banner. It will include the military branch that the member served, a picture, name, however, it will have a black ribbon added, again, in that same location in that corridor. The fallen military banner will be on display indefinitely or until the family requests that that banner be retired. And the cost of purchasing and maintaining that banner will be borne to the city unless there's funding available within the program itself. The third update is regarding the sponsorship of this program. It's the intent of the program to be self-funding, to receive donation sponsorships throughout each banner term so that the applicant or the service member themselves never have to be charged, if you will, for this honor. To kind of better maintain those donations and kind of create a funding strategy, staff has created a matrix that's before you this evening as Exhibit B, which just kind of highlights what each sponsorship level, if you will receive by becoming a partner in this program. And the last update being proposed is in regards to the retirement of the banners. Again, the banner term is for 1 year from Veterans Day to Veterans Day. To properly honor those banners being retired, it's been suggested that the council host a retirement ceremony. It will be, it's been proposed to take place during the council meeting immediately following Veterans Day, and specifically this year, that would be the November 13th meeting. At the meeting, within the second section of the agenda, the proclamations, recognitions, appointments, and announcements portion of the agenda, each military member or the applicant, if they're not home at that time, would be invited to the front. The banner could be shown on the media screen. They would be rolled nicely and presented to the family member, just so those applicants and the service members get the recognition. This would also be a time that we can recognize the sponsors that have joined in the program over that past banner term. Staff will do their due diligence to reach out to those who will be being honored at each meeting and hopefully have a good be able to compile a list of who will be in attendance, and if they're not able to attend, we'll obviously do their due diligence to get those banners to those people after that meeting. Again, this program has just really taken off over less than a year. The feedback we've received is so positive. These are just little things that staff thinks could even make the program bigger and better. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer it.
Thank you so much for taking so much time, your whole team, of thinking this through and working with the veterans groups and the community groups to come up with even better solutions to some of these small little things that just make it a great program. Comments, questions? Yes.
And they're not small things. And I guess a question that I would have in terms of clarification is how many posts do we actually have available? How many positions?
So this year, we have displayed for the 17-18 term, there were 20 banners displayed. We do have room and are able to expand that to 25 for this coming banner term, the 18-19 term. We have over 20 applications already received right now. Some of those do include members of the community who are not Turlock residents who do know that this was coming before this body this evening and are kind of waiting. So we do have some spots left available for this banner term. However, it's filling up quickly.
And the second question I had, Amber, was actually from a constituent who said there are a lot of young men and women who may or may not know about the program. What kind of outreach are we making? I know there's nothing worse than being a lonely GI or whatever overseas somewhere and not even knowing that a program exists and you're the person. There is no family.
So as of right now, I believe last year when the program was first adopted, there was a newspaper article done through the Parks, Recreation, and Public Facilities Department. We have put on our social media sites several times. Applications are coming due. Thank you to our sponsors, different things like that. I believe that's the only outreach we've done at this point. Other than that, it's been word of mouth and people coming into Turlock, and that is a very predominant area of travel when you come into Turlock. So I think it's just been word of mouth and actual personal sighting
And
of
maybe
the
some of our
banners.
veterans groups can give us a hand on that.
Definitely.
You've definitely worked with veterans and
Yeah,
also
we have
the,
worked with the veterans groups.
recruiters. They're aware of it, yeah. So, yes, or who else?
You just said what I was gonna say.
Oh, perfect. All right, we're answering questions. All right, any questions from the audience on this item? All right, bring it back to council. What do you guys think?
Happily advance.
All right. Okay. Our Marine would like to make a motion for these, to adopt these, and the second is from Councilmember Scare. Clerk, please call the roll.
Adopting a new resolution approving updates and modifications to the City of Turlock Active Military Banner Program for all applications which qualify for the 2018-19 banner term and beyond. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soiseth.
Yes, motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to item D, a request to appropriate $5,000 funded by the payment received from Golden State Farmers Market Association to be used for the City of Turlock Active Military Banner Program. Director Van Gilder.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I've got great news. You just heard all about our active military banner program and all of the positive efforts that staff has made and all of the positive responses that we've had from the community. And nothing's better than when we can present to you that we have a funding strategy for it. As you may recall, the Golden State Farmers Market agreed to direct their payment for the farmers market towards this positive community activity last year, and that is a term of the agreement that the city has with them for the farmers market. And so given all of the success and their genuine support for this program, they are wanting to once again direct that $5,000 payment towards this particular program. And so staff is behind that. We are recommending that to you tonight. Going back 3 years ago when the market was first established, the first year they had dedicated the $5,000 towards the 4th of July fireworks display, but then since then have redirected it towards this banner program. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have, but we are very excited and thankful that we have this potential source of revenue to offset the cost of those banners for our active military members.
Great. Any questions or comments? Questions or comments from the audience? Not a lot of questions and comments when people are giving us money, so we're excited about that. That's good. All right, any additional final comments or questions? All right, what's pleasure?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Vice Mayor Jacobs, seconded by Councilmember Dehart. to accept this. Clerk, please call the roll.
Appropriating $5,000 to account number 269-606141444001000, supplies, funded by the payment received from Golden State Farmers Market Association to be used for the City of Turlock Active Military Banner Program. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soisek.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. Moving on to item E, a request to rescind resolution number 2017-302 and adopt a new resolution approving the schedule of benefits between the City of Turlock and Turlock Confidential Employee Group and appropriate funds. Kelly Jacobs Hunter, welcome back.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The item before you for your consideration is the city has come to agreement with our confidential employee group, and this is asking to amend their schedule of benefits. It will be for fiscal year 18-19. We will actively apply the wage enhancements back to July 1st. And I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Any question or comments for Director Jacobs Hunter? Any question comments from the audience? Bringing it back, what's the pleasure of the council on these two items? All right, we have a motion by Vice Mayor Jacobs, seconded by Councilmember Bublak. Clerk, please call the roll.
Rescinding resolution number 2017-302 and adopting a new resolution approving the schedule of benefits, SOB, between the City of Turlock and the Turlock Confidential Employee Group, covering the period of July 1, 2018 through June 30, 2019. Appropriating $41,407 to fiscal year 2018-2019 salary and benefit accounts from Fund 110 General Fund Unallocated Reserves and $8,037 from Fund 410 Water Quality Control Unallocated Reserves due to the adoption of the schedule of benefits with the Turlock Confidential Employee Group covering the period of 7/1/18 through 6/30/19. Councilmember Esquer, Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soisek.
Yes, motion carries 4-0. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Policy goals and implementation plan. I believe Chief Anfar has a verbal update on our radio and CAD RMS system.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I wanted to give you an update on the radio program, Radio CAD RMS project that Council had approved. For the city manager's edification, we came up, and when I say we, my right hand, I have a right hand and left hand, and I'm fortunate enough to have Captain Williams as my right hand and Captain Miguel Pacheco as my left hand. Captain Williams has put a lot of effort into the Radio CAD RMS project for over the several years. The project has come to fruition. Thank you, Council. We have ordered the radio systems. Everything is scheduled to be delivered to Chicago for setup approximately in July. They will ship to us approximately in August, the end of August. I'm sorry, they're beginning to stage it. We should get shipment to the field right around the end of August, middle of September. So we're on target with all the equipment and all the installation. We're looking at a project completion date right around December, end of December. So everything is on target. Captain Williams is also the project manager on the CAD RMS, and that is all moving forward rather quickly with the help of our city attorneys, assisting us with contract review, and Captain Williams is keeping his eye on everything, and so far everything's going smoothly. So I wanted to give you an update on that.
All right, thank you so much, Chief. Administrative Services, Business License Tax. Kelly Jacobs Hunter, getting your workout this morning, sorry, or this evening.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just had a brief update, and I apologize. I did not get the PowerPoint done for the business license tax update. Council, we had talked before about the fact that the CPI adjustment, the index adjustment, hadn't been done for the business license cap. And we have received word, and I believe you've received a memo from our city attorney's office from Mr. Sanchez, that it looks as though we would be able to do a catch-up provision in at the end of this calendar year to be effective January 1st. I went through and I calculated out the increase and then applied it based on the current receipts that we have for business license, and it is not a huge revenue generator. It's about 31,000. But I want to bring that to you, and I will be back with more information. But I did want to let you know that we have calculated that. And remember, that's just the administrative authority that council has to bring that back up to current. Does anyone have any questions?
No, thank you
No,
so much
okay,
for
thank
for
you.
getting that number. Thank you. All right, Development Services Department. We have a written update on Measure L activity, but then an SB1 verbal update from Mr. Bray.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. As you may remember, on April 24th, council approved the project list for SB1. This list was required to be in compliance with the SB1 requirements, and it was due May 1st. So at that time, it was discussed that staff would be bringing further discussions back to this council to further define it and discuss that list. So staff will be bringing that back, bringing the list back September 11th. So I wanted to notify you that we will be bringing that back. One important development that will be addressed, sorry, I don't know if this is on too well. One important development that will be addressed with that is the loss of revenue from Fund 216. So this is known as the LTF, Local Streets and Road Funding. This is a funding source that was used to fund transportation, traffic signal maintenance, traffic signal parts and supplies, as well as lighting costs for streetlights that are not in assessment districts. The funds that we received annually from StanCog were roughly $685,000. So StanCog Policy Board voted to reserve those funds for transit, future transit projects. So with the SB1 list that needs to get revised, part of the solution, recommended solutions and discussion points would be identifying those costs coming from the SB1 list. So September 11th, we'll be bringing that back. And also, we have two current SB1 projects that are going on that were from the first allotment of SB1 funds. The first project that hit the ground was the installation of the fence along the median on Christofferson. That project's actively in construction and it's nearing complete construction. The second project is a SB1 funded slurry seal. So this was a slurry seal in areas that are not assessment districts that have pavement conditions that would support that type of treatment. The contractor is looking at having a pre-construction meeting with city staff here in the next 2 weeks and starting construction on that in mid-September. So,
do you know roughly the neighborhoods? I'm trying to jog my memory. I know. I was looking at it, I'm like, I
there's
can't remember.
31 different street segments, and they really are kind of around town. I want to say there are some areas focused down in the 5th and Linwood area, down in the woods, but they are kind of sparse throughout town.
But a good distinction, though, is like you said, slurry seal versus total road reconstruction, because I know we talked about Wayside and Headstrom stuff. Those are a little bit farther gone. You can't slurry seal those.
You would be wasting your money. The one project that was identified on the SB1 funded list was Wayside. So along with the hit to the 216, where do we come up with those funds? We need to holistically look at what are the best uses for those monies. So.
Absolutely. Additional comments or questions? Yeah.
Just a question, Nick. So it was starting maybe September, October. Is that the rainy season going to affect the slurry seal?
No. So typically we don't really have to worry about the rainy seasons until about mid-November. The type of slurry seal treatment, it's best placed in hot temperatures. So we are getting near the end of that type of treatment. What we've spec'd out is I don't want to get too technical, but it's a polymer modified slurry seal, and so it will cure faster than your traditional slurry seal, and so you can place it with lower temperatures.
All right. Thank you you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, no more updates. City manager comments.
Mayor, I'm sorry.
I'm
We do
sorry.
have an OES update from
Oh,
Chief
I
Maloney.
apologize, Chief Saloni. I didn't even see it. We have a fire department OES strike team update. Thank you so much. I know I caught you off guard. You're like, it's not me yet. Waiting for the chief. Sorry, city manager.
I may not always be ready, but I am definitely prepared.
Absolutely. Good. I like it. Just checking. It's only 9:10. It's just nothing.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, thank you for the opportunity. I'd like to show you what an ember can do in a wildland situation. That's one ember. I'll multiply that hundreds and hundreds of times. I think that's a pretty telling story. Thank you, Stacy. Well, since July, the start of the wildland season, members of the Turlock Fire Department have been deployed a total of 6 times throughout the state to fight these fires. We stand side by side with the 14,000 other firefighters statewide who walk the fire line. Turlock firefighters with their red cards are highly trained, experienced, and fit to work under the most dangerous of conditions. To date, we have been deployed to the Cranston Fire, Ferguson Fire, Horse Creek Fire, Klamath Fire, Lane Fire, and Mendocino Fire. The Mendocino Complex Fire right now is the largest in the state history. It is larger than the cities of Dallas, New York, and Los Angeles. 75 homes have been destroyed. Many families have lost everything. The concerns for containment are the wind and triple-digit temperatures. There have been 6 firefighter deaths directly related to these fires. The most recent was yesterday at the Mendocino Fire Complex. At this time, we have 1 firefighter deployed. The others have been demobilized and are awaiting new assignments. Firefighter deployments range from 16 days to 21 days. They work in shifts of 12 hours or 24 hours, depending on the officer in charge of that fire. Currently, there are 16 major wildland fires in the state of California. Recently, our firefighters and our OES, Office of Emergency Services, engine number 33, were demobilized. And it was featured on the cover of Cal OES Daily Situational Report for August 9, 2018. No small feat. The situation report is viewed statewide. We made a statewide publication, email. The fire department took possession of our OES engine in 2016. Since then, we have been deployed to 27 wildland fires, both in-state and out-of-state. Even we had a presence in Puerto Rico for the Hurricane Maria. Battle Chief, Battalion Chief Bill Becker is with us tonight. I asked Chief Becker, who was highly trained and experienced, a strike team leader, and a single resource. He has recently turned from the front fire lines. I asked him to attend tonight's council. So you can see a member of Turlock's bravest just back from a wildland firefighting. Battalion Chief Becker, strike team leader. He took those videos. This is Chief Becker. Another photo of Chief Becker. We send firefighters, we send that engine, OES engine, has 4 firefighters on it. We have single source resource. He's a single source resource. He runs the show. We have others at different levels. This is the quality we have in Turlock for our firefighters. This was sent to me by Chief Becker. You'll notice it's kind of hard to read, but there's a vehicle covered in dust, ash. Written on the back of that glass said, "God bless you." That's the type of people we have working here in Turlock. Chief Becker, any comments?
Before you begin,
Thank you so much. Good evening, Mayor and Council, Mr. Manager, city staff, and community members. As the chief referred to, my experience on the Ferguson fire was a 16-day stint as a strike team leader with 5 Type 3 wildland engine crews, all from departments and districts within Stanislaus County. Strike team was XST 4204 Charlie. The 19 personnel on this team quickly bonded and worked in an efficient and coordinated effort to accomplish our given assignments in a very physically and mentally challenging work environment. We made a difference. Kurt Vonnegut once wrote or quoted in one of his books, "I can think of no more stirring symbol of man's humanity to man than a fire engine." On an incident such as the Ferguson fire, you see many types of fire vehicles, including staff vehicles, crew buses, bulldozers, water tenders, aircraft, and of course, fire engines. Seeing all these resources organized towards a common goal amplifies Kurt Vonnegut's quote. So far this fire season, we've seen some historical incidents and unfortunately, as the chief referred to, some tragedy as well. Our hearts are heavy for the personnel who responded and never returned home. Thank you for your continued support of our participation in California's mutual aid system.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the update. Appreciate it. And a good investment and good dedication from this council for the OES program. I'm glad we participate. Thank you so much to all your hard work. City manager comments. Now we're ready for you. Sorry about that.
It's a darn tough act to follow, isn't
I know,
it, Mr.
right?
Mayor? Thanks again, Chief. And I appreciate everything that your guys have been doing out there. We follow them on Facebook, and it's absolutely stirring. I look forward to greeting them in person and expressing my thanks at the firehouses. Thank you. I've got a couple of items, more or less of substance, and actually I would have had 3, but we already got into the spectrum thing, so I can't chew that gum again. But there have been a couple of, I'm going to hear about that later on.
Yeah.
We have a couple of issues that have come up since the last meeting. They're both in process, but I've been working with our department directors on them. Number one is concern about our sidewalk enforcement. Apparently, because of ADA requirements, there are issues with sidewalk heaving that to the untrained eye would appear to be perfectly flat and serviceable, but apparently it only takes as little as a quarter to a half inch of being out of alignment to require remediation. So I'm trying to get a better handle on our process for notifying residents, how their responsibility is assigned, what some of the options are, say grinding down as opposed to full replacement. And there are individual cases where we're taking a look at the records that are available. So it's been a new experience because back east with the winter and the frost heaves, when you have an uneven sidewalk, I'm thinking of something that you would easily trip over when you're running, or you couldn't get a bicycle over. And here it's a lot more subtle. So we're working on that.
Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
So, in talking to a lot of people in assessment districts, when we start to redo assessment district lighting and such, they'd rather just pay into the assessment district lighting and have everything taken care of, because there's too many issues with, okay, use this permit, and if you wait a week, oh, they're not part of our permitting any longer. So these people are really looking at, can you just add it to my assessment and I'll just pay the tax on it, and then you'll take care of it for us.
That's an interesting approach, and staff will be meeting tomorrow to follow up, and I'll make sure to bring that up. Okay. Then the other issue, and I want to thank Councilmember Bublak for bringing this up. Council voted to establish new hours for all parks, and also made a determination that they wanted to prioritize, improved lighting in certain parks. And the council member posed the question of, well, if we are treating all parks equally with respect to hours, what would it look like to try and accomplish the same thing for lighting? And this came in the wake of the recent incident in Donnelly Park. So staff have been working on developing information. I want to thank the chief, and I want to thank Director Cook, because they've been looking at and giving me some information on places where activity would indicate we most need any additional lighting, and what would be the cost. What are the lighting fixtures we have in there now? As you know, we replace lights with LED as they fail. In some places, we may already have gotten to that in a couple of areas, and so would not necessarily be a larger commitment. It is my preference, because this was established pursuant to action by council, that I bring this back to council in the September meeting for your discussion, a presentation of the cost, and some policy direction for how we approach this. If council had been silent on the matter, it might have been something that administration would have undertaken on its own, but because it is, I think, a policy directive, we're going to resolve it in a policy manner and bring it back to council. But so we're working on that. Your staff is active, and again, I want to thank Michael and Nino for their help, because took some time for them to break staff off and come back with the numbers. Beyond that, I'd just like to do a quick rundown of my activities outside the office since our last meeting. Had the opportunity to tour District 2 and the rest of the city with Councilmember Esquer, and I appreciate that. It's always good to see this place through somebody else's windshield and get a handle on what they think is important, and I learn a lot every time I get out of the office. I met with Ellen June, president of Stanislaus State. We've had some conversations about the diversity task force. I attended the Turlock Walnut Company grand opening, and that building will never be as clean as it was that day. We went to the regular joint city schools meeting, where I was joined by, I think, the chief and Marin and Allison. No, Nathan wasn't there, was he? You were in? Oh, and, well, of course, and Councilmember Esquer would know, because he was there too. Okay. City County Managers Meeting, we have 7 cities. We get together periodically, and some issues come up. We're able to discuss things with the county. Council of Governments, Finance and Management Committee. The chief hosted the law enforcement executives meeting, so we had the top, generally the top 2 officers, chief and assistant chief, for all the jurisdictions in the county happened to be meeting here, and he decided it was a good opportunity to show me off, and I enjoyed it, but that's their thing. I'm not going to be making a habit of it. Dana Trevathan, the superintendent of the Turlock Unified School District. Casey Hashimoto, general manager out of TID. It was my pleasure to join, I think, a couple of our distinguished members and our police and fire departments at National Night Out. Another opportunity to meet people out in the neighborhoods, and I did come back with a few constituent matters to help address, and others managed to find their way to my desk after that. Let's see. The Parks, I attended the meeting of the Parks, Arts, and Recreation Commission, took a tour of the some of our public facilities with Director Van Gilder, met with Rosa Park, the Stan Cog Executive Director, went to the Coffee with the Community, hosted by the Chief Amirfar. It was a nice experience, and there actually were more residents of the community than there were off-duty officers there. I also want to commend the Chief for the high quality of pastries that were served. I'll be back, but only in a private capacity. And I also had the opportunity to join some of your colleagues, Mr. Mayor, you and some of your colleagues at the swearing-in of 2 new police officers, and I later received a tour of the public safety facility from the law enforcement side. And I look forward to visiting Chief Bob and seeing him in his natural habitat up there. So I'm still settling in. I've had the chance to meet some folks that I haven't met before. Most importantly, I've had a chance to meet folks where they are in their working environment and to see things through their eyes. And that'll. Oh, that's right. That was because it was so new and so recent. I got a short-term memory thing. Councilmember Dehart was kind enough to drive me around District 3, and not necessarily limited to District 3. So I think I had been out before the last meeting with council members Jacob and Bublak. I don't think that happened since the last meeting. You got to help me with that. My dates are a little bit fuzzy, but it's been great to be out and be out in the community with every member of council. It's not something I'm checking off a list. I'd like to be able to do it again and again, but it's been a great experience, and I'm learning a lot of things I like about the city of Turlock, and I appreciate your hospitality.
Perfect. Glad to have you. Thank you so much for the update. Matters for the agenda, non-agenda items. City manager, city attorney, don't see any. All right, council items for future consideration, looking left and right, seeing none. Council comments, left. Yes, Councilmember Scare.
Yes, I had some concerns over the decisions we made on the park closures. That all happened so quickly, I don't think we really had a chance to really investigate as well as we should. As I am in favor of the lighting, as I've said, that's not a problem. My concern is many of our citizens are talking about the park closures for the parks that have amenities like the tennis courts, the basketball courts that are all lighted. And I would just hope that if there's any issues there, the police department, and I wanted to talk to you, Chief, but I didn't get a chance, would, use these situations, you're not just gonna say, you're playing basketball, get out of here. You know what I mean? You're gonna look at the situation and address it appropriately. I think it's something we need to bring back and look at a little bit closer, define some of this a little bit better. Like I say, the lighting, I have no issue, but Pedretti Park was mentioned, Crane Park was mentioned, Columbia Park was mentioned, because they have amenities there that people can enjoy into the after dusk hours, so. That's just something I want to bring back, a little future point.
I echo that sentiment, and I think the city manager, if he can work with staff, and so we can bring that back. I think additionally, there's been requests, even at Columbia specifically, to light up the soccer, it used to be tennis court, but it's a soccer complex area, and I think that more activity in some parks is actually better and safer in some areas, whereas they have amenities versus other parks. So absolutely, I think that that's something we bring back, but that's the process that we're going through, where we're fine-tuning this, and we're willing to go look at different programs. So absolutely. Additional comments over here? I just want one comment for the community, and that's we have faced no graver threat than the water grab that is going to be facing us in August coming up. And Assemblymember Adam Gray is hosting a water rally next Monday at noon on the Capitol steps, and I think it's very important that the city of Turlock shows up. I think that we need to be there. I think that we need to be there the following 2 days, that Tuesday and Wednesday, to tell the State Water Resources Control Board that these are 5 unelected individuals that are really having a negative impact on our local economy, on our disadvantaged communities, on our farmers, and really going to result in huge job loss. You're talking 9 billion gallons of water per year for 50 years that we secured from the Turlock Irrigation District for drinking water to make sure that our industries have jobs for the folks here in the Central Valley. And that's what they're threatening. And I don't think that they are actually having their eyes wide open. When we heard a hearing of all the individuals in Modesto, this was last Christmas, they came back with one revision and an appendix. They didn't change one thing. And I think that's absolutely inappropriate. I think it's something that the governor's office should look at. I think that we have some reasonable folks, maybe just one or so, on the State Water Resources Control Board that I really hope we can reason with them and have them realize that this is going to have disastrous impacts to our local economy and to our way of life. So I hope everyone can join us. It'll be noon. Assemblymember Gray's done a great job of organizing that rally on the steps on August 20th, and then Tuesday and Wednesday we'll be having the hearing. So I hope everyone can join us there. With that, closed session, what items do we have?
Yes, we have 2 items this evening. Item A has been pulled and will be agendized for a future date. We have item B, public employee appointment, Government Code Section 54957B1, City Attorney, and item C, conference with labor negotiators, Government Code 54957.6A, agency negotiators, Mayor Gary Soyseth. For those 2 items, our office will be excusing itself.
All right. Motion to adjourn to closed session.
So moved.
You have a second? All right, I have a motion by Councilmember DeHart, second by Councilmember Scare. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Closed session.